And we're live. Darren, it's fair to say you're a bit nervous, are you?
It's more than fair to say I'm a bit nervous, man. I'm absolutely bricking it here.
Why?
Well, I'm afraid of what I'm going to say. I'm afraid that my words will just turn to mush, and my tongue will just melt, and I'll just end up going blah, blah, blah for the next 2 hours, and it'll be incomprehensible crap. Like that. Incomprehensible. Is that even a word?
And when you're in your day-to-day life, when you're chatting to your missus or your kids or your boss, or you're getting on a bus or you're buying something in the shop, do you sit in the car, like when you pull into a shop to buy something, do you sit in the car for 5 minutes building up the courage to go in and ask your one for the paper or whatever it is?
I suppose not.
So
no.
What's different?
I'm probably getting told to stop talking.
So what's different about this though?
It's the mic in your face. That's like about, what, less than 6 inches away from my face.
Yeah, well,
that's just pretty much sucking everything out of my mouth.
If you've ever watched something like a chat show, like the Late Late or something like that, you'll notice that there isn't mics in people's faces. They have little lavalier mics that are clipped on, and I've often thought about the idea of getting those in to kind of alleviate the kind of microphone in your face anxiety. But one thing that I find is kind of cool about them is it kind of focuses you a little. It reminds you that, I don't know, see, the little bit of anxiety is good. Do you know where I'm coming from with that? Like,
oh, well, anxiety is a great thing. It can make you feel alive. Like, once you get past the anxiety, there's always a buzz on the other side of it, another bit of excitement. So it's like a wall you have to get past. Like, you're only anxious about stuff if you're afraid of something. And once you've realised that the fear is nothing, then you kind of get a buzz out of it, I think. There's a bit of excitement, okay, that was nothing. Let's do it again. Like if you're going on a huge slide in a water park, you're always anxious walking up to the top. But when you get up to the top, you're looking down and you go, I don't want to do this. Like I was about 10 minutes ago. But now I jumped off the slide. I'm still at the bit at the start when I'm going, oh, no, hang on now. Is there any way of stopping this? But then once I get down the bottom and we get to the end, I'm sure I might be like, yeah, that was nothing. Want to go back up again?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's cool. I think anxiety kind of gets a bad rap to a degree, especially these days when we're all so maybe uber focused on our emotional well-being and our mental health, and do you know that kind of way? Anxiety is this big bad wolf that you should. I don't know. There just seems to be a kind of a narrative that you shouldn't have anxiety in your life and you should do everything you can to like avoid it and keep it clear. But
yeah,
you hit a good point there, I think.
Yeah, well, like. And I don't mean to dismiss people who have genuine anxiety and like serious depression issues or anything.
Of course.
But like, yeah, a little bit of anxiety isn't a bad thing. You can be anxious but not be clinically depressed.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's interesting because Joy Booth was supposed to come on the podcast, I think it was a fortnight ago, and with the snow, the buses weren't travelling, so she couldn't get here. Then the following week, I think we were in the hospital with the baby, so hopefully she's going to come on next week. But she said something I thought was pretty cool. She said, I asked her, was she looking forward to it? And she said that she was, what did she say? She said that she was excited and terrified in equal measure. And there's something really cool about that. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's that kind of, the utility of anxiety to a degree, like.
Yeah, well, that's the way I felt. That's exactly how I felt. And I'm still feeling it now. But it's fading. It is fading as we're doing this now. But up until about 10 minutes before this, 10 seconds you could have asked me, are you excited? I would have been, yeah, absolutely. Then another 10 seconds you could ask me, are you terrified? And I'd be shitting a brick.
But it's cool though, and fair play to you, because I think you reached out to me originally with a message on Facebook. Am I saying this right? That you reached out and said basically just, fair play, listen to a podcast or something, and well done.
Yeah, like you've put yourself out there. You've actually said, I'm going to do something. You're doing it. So I think, like, anybody who's doing that deserves a bit of support. Deserves a pat on the back to say, you know what, fuck them, go and do it yourself. Do it.
And speaking of people who've kind of decided to put themselves out there and set themselves up for a fall, if to put it maybe not in the best words, but you set up something and launched it more or less only today. Is that a coincidence, or presumably is just a coincidence?
It is a bit of a coincidence. I've been trying to launch it for the last week. So what I have launched is uptheroad.ie, which is a cycling blog. Yeah, it's based around just me being an average cyclist. I don't excel at anything, really. So it's just about me being an average cyclist, racing every weekend, and just the mental mindfuck that is bike racing.
You said it there, bike racing. I have a bike, and I cycle. I've competed in triathlons and other things, and I like the bike, but I've never raced, and I don't get racing. Like my only interaction with racing is when I'm trying to drive somewhere on a Sunday and there's half a dozen fuckers taking up the road in front of me and I'm effing and blinding in the car behind me. So is that you and your mates, or who is that, or what is bike racing?
That could be me and my mates. If there's sirens on the car, it more than likely is me and my mates. But on a Sunday morning, it's more than likely fat men in lycra going for scones, tipping out the road, coming back, getting away from their wife. Middle-aged men in lycra, the mammal.
The mammal.
The mammal.
Middle-aged men. Oh, I like that. Nice.
Yeah.
And your...
Lycra doesn't look good in anybody, by the way.
You what, sorry?
Lycra doesn't look good in anybody.
Very true. So, I know by looking at you that you're not one of those guys. So you're racing. You're
I was one of those guys. Most people start off racing as a middle-aged man in lycra who gets sick of stopping for scones on a Sunday morning and say, I want something more here.
And what is that? Is that a competitive streak, or...?
I am ridiculously competitive. if I'm going to bed at night and my wife tells me that she's brushed her teeth before me, I am furious.
Right.
That's how competitive it gets.
And how has that manifested itself throughout your life? Like, presumably that would make you quite, confrontational, would it? Or, like, is that... I don't know.
Probably earlier in life I would have been confrontational. Not so much anymore. I've kind of got over myself.
Kind of a one-upmanship type thing? Or...
I've never won anything, Fran. Anything.
That must be a bit stressful, though, is it? Like, if you haven't won anything and you're, like, really competitive?
Yeah, I just want to win something once. That's all. It is a bit stressful. It is. And that's why I wrote the blog. Because if I'm thinking that, and I'm feeling stressed because I really want to win, but I'm not really getting there, like, surely there's somebody else out there who's thinking the exact same way.
Yeah, no, I'd be very much of that opinion. And having this platform and talking to people for hours on end and publishing it has made me really kind of realise that, because I'm getting messages from people who are basically saying, I thought I was a bit weird thinking that, but hearing you say it, it's like, maybe I'm not a fucking lunatic after all. Like, do you know that kind of way?
Yeah. Like, we are all very similar. Like, we all have the same buttons. We all have, like, anxiety, we all have excitement, we all have terrifying thoughts and all this kind of stuff. So, like, none of us is any different than the other. We're all in the same country, like, we have the same mindset, we have the same culture, so we're all going to think the same.
Yeah, we're all related.
Pretty much,
Do
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I mean, we all have that, what do they call it, Luca, the last universal common ancestor. Like, we do, and that's going back billions of years, but we do, like, in Europe, say, unless you're, ethnically diverse, generally speaking, you're not that far removed from anybody in Europe, really. Like, I mean, we all came from the kind of same places, anthropologically speaking, or evolutionarily speaking. We are all the same species. We are all interlinked. And as you say, we come from the same culture. We listen to the same music. We watch the same TV programs. We all have the same jobs, kind of to a degree.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense that we would be very similar. Not the same, but very similar.
Exactly, yeah.
But when did you get the idea to do this, or when did you start writing it?
Well, I started writing last year. I've been racing for probably 3 years now. And I started writing it last year pretty much because I was going to these races, not doing very well, and trying to figure out, well, what am I actually doing here? Like I'm trying to get over that stress of actually racing, because you're racing around roads that, like, you could be at 60, 70 kilometers an hour in a bunch of 20 people, and next thing a bomb goes off, pretty much 2 lads collide together and everybody's on the ground. Like, there's the stress of that happening every week. So, like, I was just trying to get down on paper my thoughts, and basically when I come home from races as well, my wife wouldn't listen to me talking about it, so I had to get it down somewhere. So I talked to myself pretty much. So I spent a lot of time talking to myself in the car on my own, like a nut job.
There's something in that, though, because we all have that internal dialogue. We all talk to ourselves constantly, 24 hours a day. We all do it, like, and I think a lot of people, because nobody ever talks about that, people maybe think they're weird for doing it.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, because you always have that thought, like, he's a bit odd. He's talking to himself. It's like, what's all that about?
But it's not mad though, the difference between somebody, put it this way, we all talk to ourselves 24 hours a day in our heads. That little internal dialogue, it's always there, it's constantly there. And if you lose the ability to filter that, so if you lose the ability to not vocalize that, and let me start that again. If you vocalize your internal dialogue, like if you actually said all those thoughts out loud, you'd be a certified crazy person.
I used to always say to my dad, because he does a lot, and I used to always say to my dad, the first sign of madness is when you talk to yourself. So can you please shut the fuck up?
Well, we do, and she does think I'm mad, because I would talk out loud. I would talk to myself out loud. Every so often she'll catch me, like I'll be in washing the dishes, and she'll come home early from work or whatever, and I'll be just washing the dishes. I won't realise I'm talking out loud, and the next minute I'll hear is, "Are you alright?" from behind me, like, and I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "You're there having a full blown fucking conversation with yourself." Like, oh shit, sorry. But so look, we all do it, and I think fair play to you, because there's so many people out there who've wanted to do something, or it takes a bit of fucking balls to go out and do it. But getting back to actually how you got into cycling, so when did the cycling end of it start? I'll jump back before you started the blog. Have you been cycling forever, for years, or what brought you into it?
No, that's the thing. I'm not one of these people who like basically came out of the womb pulling wheelies, or like, I haven't been cycling all my life. I used to be terrified of bikes. I hated them. I wasn't a very good cyclist when I was younger. And then I was playing football for like about 14 years. And according as the 14 years went on, I started to realise I don't really have the skills to play football.
And when you say football, Gaelic football?
Soccer.
Okay,
sorry.
Soccer.
Yeah, so I don't really have the skills to play soccer. And soccer is a very kind of judgmental sport, in my opinion, because you're always at the mercy of a manager, unless you're actually good enough. Like, I was always, like, particularly in the later years, I was always the guy who turned up training Tuesday, Thursday night, go to the game on Saturday, and sit on the bench.
Right.
I was never really good enough, but I never give up. I'd always keep going. I don't know why. Maybe it's a bit of sad punishment or whatever. But even in that, like in my mentalness, I was always thinking in those years, you know what? If I just got a run of games, I could do great things. Like I could actually, get that call up. But I never did, and I was always terrible at football. Even when I got on, I could train Tuesday and Thursday night and be fine and be like Ronaldinho or whatever of the MDL. But then I get on a Saturday, and as soon as I get on that pitch, it was like tunnel vision, complete blackout. I was shit, and I shit myself. And anytime the ball came over near me, I didn't want to see it. So I needed a sport that didn't involve getting picked or being put on a pitch in front of 20 other people.
Yeah, because you're very much on display in a football pitch as well. But what you said there about being picked, there's something that I really hate about that. Your destiny is in the hands of someone else to a degree.
Yeah, you're constantly being judged.
Yes.
So you do something wrong on a football pitch, there's like any amount of people. There's 21 other players on the pitch who are going to go, fuck me, what is he at? There's guys on the sideline going, what the fuck are you at? And then you're coming off the pitch, and then if you are on the pitch, there's always a chance that you're going to get reefed off because you're not good enough.
We all love when that happens.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, it's full of judgment, and it's just like, I needed to get away from that because it was just not good for my mental health at all.
Yeah, no, and it makes perfect sense because like you get reefed off in a game because you're, it's like, stop, everybody stop. This lad's shit and has to do the walk of shame off, like, and then your counterpart kind of runs by full of the joys of springtime and gives you a thumbs up, and you're like, fuck you.
Yeah, puts the ball in the top corner in the first minute as soon as he comes on. Yeah, it's like, see, I told you it was shit. We should have had this other guy on from the start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even like I remember, I would have played a lot of team sports. I played rugby, played hurling, played football, played soccer, played them all over the years. And one thing that I hated was if you lost, or even if you won, but more so when you lost, the backs didn't do their job, or midfield wasn't there, or the goalie let in a goal, or the striker lost a sitter. You could always kind of blame somebody else.
Yeah, it's full of critics. It's full of critics. You even watch football on TV, it's always full of critics. Like, Twitter is just exploded now. Like football with Twitter is just the ultimate toxic environment.
I'm out of that loop. Is it like?
It's horrible. Like, it's horrible. And like fans, even the idea of being a fan of a football team, it's just a life of misery. Like, you're hating somebody for liking a football club that's 30 miles away from another football club in another country.
Yeah.
That has no connection to you.
Yeah,
But
no,
you hate
absolutely.
that other person because he lives in Liverpool and you live in Manchester or whatever. Like it's just, it doesn't make any sense. And then people go on Twitter and they're like, oh, I hate Man United. I can't say anything good about Man United ever because I support Liverpool, which is ridiculous. Like obviously Man United have good footballers, but if you're a Liverpool supporter, you'd never ever admit that they're good footballers.
Yeah, it's so much for the love of the sport. Like,
Yeah, it's just, I just find it ridiculous. Like, Twitter, I think has a lot to answer for in society.
are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter, yeah.
But do you tweet? Say, do you add to it? Like,
Yeah, I do tweet, to be honest, and I've tried to pull back. I had a friend who said to me, you know, if you wouldn't say it on the altar, don't put it on social media. And it's the truest thing I've ever heard.
if you wouldn't say it on the altar, don't put it on social media.
Yeah.
That's an
Like, if
interesting.
you don't feel like getting up and saying it in public, don't hide behind, like, whatever, a firewall or whatever, or stick it out there somewhere. I don't know, firewall's probably not the wrong term.
But no, I know what you mean.
Don't
Yeah, your
hide behind the
avatar or
computer,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
And stick it out there and abuse people, like, because there is a lot of abuse on Twitter. Like, people think they can just say anything, and there is a thing called I don't know what it's called. It's called basically like web inhibition disorder or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's something like that, or basically people distance themselves, so they become a completely different person once they go on to social media.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because you don't have those social cues aren't there. Like, if you're in a bar, let's say, or whatever, and you say something smart to the guy beside you, he'll turn around and he'll fucking look at you as if to say, you know, watch what you're fucking saying,
Yeah,
basically.
how fucking dare you? Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, but
I've never met you before.
yeah, who the fuck do you think you
Like,
are?
imagine having a conversation in a pub. Like imagine we're having a conversation now, and someone sticks their egghead in, like it is on Twitter. Little egghead pops in and goes,
Yeah.
"Stop talking shite, Frano."
You dickhead.
You'd be like, "The fuck are you?"
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's something there. I remember reading something about the guys who fly drones for the US military. Like, they're sitting in an office in San Francisco or somewhere, and they're flying these drones, and like they're dropping bombs on fucking whatever they're dropping on. It could be a fucking hospital or a fucking school or whatever the fuck it is. But because they're kind of disassociated with it, or they're 1 or 2 or 10 steps removed from it, and it just becomes pedestrian. You know, you don't really care. So there's a weirdness there. Money is the same. We don't, if you're removed from handing cash over to something, like you'll go online and you'll buy something for 50 quid, but if you had to hand the guy the €50 for it, maybe
stop.
not so much. You know, it becomes too easy.
Chip and pin has ruined my life.
Exactly, because you don't see the loss in your wallet.
Yeah, well,
Kind of
even
way.
if you go onto the cycling websites now, and I'm sure it's the same for Amazon and other ones, you don't even have to put in your number anymore.
Oh, one click.
One click, you've already saved your number. You've already said, you know what, I'm going to give every penny I have to this guy. So it's like you don't even have to second thought when you're putting in your number, or you don't even go, you know what, I'm not putting in my address again. And then you go, oh, you know, I don't need those golden shoes. I'll leave it for today. But no, it's like, I know I might get that. Oh, hang on, no, I'll just click. Oh no, I've got it. Oh no, what am I going to do now? I've no money.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something about what you said there about writing in your address. If you're thinking to yourself, I couldn't be arsed putting in my email address and my bank card number and my delivery address.
Well, usually when I get the address, I know this is actually going to my house. My wife's going to see this. I better not do this.
But it's mad though, because like online retailers, they've engineered it to take all those little things, like, you know, the thought that pops into your head about your wife seeing it, they've already thought about that, and that's why we've got down to just, you know, a click or a swipe or whatever for a purchase. Because there's, what's the term? Oh, I can't think of the name. There's an actual name of it for why people jump off. Like, if you've got a 10-step process to buy something, people are jumping off at 4 or 5, so you reduce that as much as you possibly can, and it's like a perpetual impulse buy. So when you're queuing at the till in the shop and you pick up the packet of chewing gum or whatever it is that's at the till, that's 24 hours now. It's on your phone, it's on your laptop screen, it's everywhere, like. But
It's dangerous.
it's very dangerous. It is very dangerous. And then you end up with a pile of shit at home that you don't fucking need.
Yeah, true.
And we'll get into that as well, because cyclists tend to do that more than most.
We do a lot of
Pile up shit.
Yeah, a lot.
getting back again round to where we were, so not a cyclist, played a bit of football, good bit of football, a lot of football for years, was it?
Yeah, a lot of football. I used to play with Cosmos in town, but I was
That's a high level, is it?
no.
Well, relatively speaking,
It's
it's not five-a-side.
I played at Cosmos, and I was on the Cosmos team when they weren't at a high level, and then when they started to get better and better, I started to get further and further away from actually playing.
Fucking a good thing in hindsight, by the sounds of things, because you love your cycling.
I do love my cycling. I used to love my football. I used to be obsessed with it. Like, I get obsessed with things very, very easily. And I was obsessive to the point where probably in 2002, 2003, I could probably name you the starting 11 of every Premier League team.
Jesus.
I was that obsessed with it. I would watch Watford versus Fulham on a Wednesday night, and then I'd watch another game on a Thursday night, and then I'd watch the games at the weekend.
I'd say your wife loves you.
Well, my wife wasn't there at the time. That's probably why I got to watch so much. But I get so obsessed with things. Like I'm an obsessive compulsive dabbler, you could say. I dabble in everything. But once I latch onto something, I'll just go with it and I want to know everything about it. Everything. And it's ridiculous.
And what did you say you're done with soccer and start looking for something else, or did you start cycling while you were playing soccer? Like, what was the transition between soccer and cycling like?
Well, I suppose I went travelling in 2008, so that kind of put an end to the soccer, put a break in it, really.
Okay.
And when we came back, I did try to get back into it, but I had kind of, I suppose, found that there was more important things in life than actually chasing the football around the pitch, and not getting picked to do that either. So, so it just kind of faded away, and I suppose then I just looking for something to do. I did a bit of running. Kind of don't really like running. Don't really like that kind of being out of breath from like the start gun. Like, hated that. So yeah, my brother-in-law gave me an old hybrid bike and said go on out on it. And one of my friends, he was pretty big into it. He started cycling as well, so it just kind of got started that way, kind of. So.
And did the two of you go out together, or like what kind of distances? Were you just doing a lap in Navan, or were you going off
originally,
far?
yeah. Actually, the first time I went out on the bike, I went from Johnstown up to Tarnary and back in, which is probably 10, 15k, and I thought I was an absolute hero. And then about 3 or 4 months later, I'd myself and James Quinn went cycling out to Oldcastle and did 100k.
Fuck.
And I was in bits.
Yeah.
But it was like, I've done 100k. I can actually do this now. And at that time, it was all about the distance, trying to get further and cycling for longer, more than anything else.
Okay.
Seeing where I could go. And then the more you're out cycling, the more you see, oh, hang on, it's actually a pretty cool country to be in. Like the roads are not great, but like the scenery is amazing. So like, it's an incredible hobby, and I'm actually losing weight. So there,
staying fit, getting out in the fresh air, all the rest of it. So you cycled Oldcastle and back, which was like 100k or something.
It was 100k, yeah. I think it was about 110, and I was fucked. Like I was bollocks.
Yeah, but delighted.
Yeah. I don't think I was able to move for the rest of the day.
And where did it go from there?
Oh well, then like I just kind of I do you do like sportives and stuff like that. So basically organised events. So kind of like your mammals on a Sunday morning. Like to be guys that organise like a tour of Meath. Like on Puss did a lot of cycles, like to do a tour of Meath, tour of Sligo, one in Cork, one in Waterford. There's one in Wicklow as well. So these are kind of organised cycles of 160k, where you're basically marshalled around the county by like basically not closed roads, but like you've a lead car, you've people looking after you, you're in a bunch of like 60 people.
Yeah, it's safe and it's organised.
Stopping off for sandwiches and in places and stuff like that. Like it's safe, and it's a nice way to go around the country, and you're meeting people on the bike. Like you're not stressing yourself too much. Like, so I did a lot of those for a while. So
when did you join the club? Because there's getting, like, I have a bike and I cycle around the place, but I'm not in a club.
Yeah, that's well, I suppose I joined. I'm a bit of a slut. Now, when it comes to joining clubs, I'm a bit of a slut.
Brilliant! I'm delighted to hear
that. I joined the Skeown Wheelers out in Kilmessan, mainly because I knew Ray Quinn, which is James's brother, and he was like the secretary in the club. So I said, look, I'll go out and join them, go out for spins during the summer. So went, did a few spins with them. Then when the summer was finished, I was kind of like, you know what? Because James had been racing, and I'd seen him racing, and I thought, you know what? I actually think it's time to get back and try to do something competitive. and not have to be picked for it as well. So
And not have to be...
picked for it.
Okay, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You're in charge.
Yeah.
You know, you're in control of your own destiny, basically.
exactly, yeah. So the Skein club in Comesson isn't it's not really a racing club. There's only like one or two lads that do a bit of racing. So I thought, look, I'll join Navan because they have a lot of racers. So I went and I trained all winter with them, and then went racing with them in February, March when the season started, and raced with them for a year. And then was it a year? 2 years I raced for them, I think. 2 years, and then we've moved house now, and I'm racing with Keown up in Dundalk.
And when you say racing, like, I mean, is there distances? Is there...
Yeah, so I'm racing A4, which is like the lowest category you could possibly get.
And when you say, like, what does that even mean, though? Like, the lowest category, I mean, what's it based on? I mean, is it speed? Is it distance?
It's generally based on ability. So you start out, everybody starts in A4. So
Okay.
A4 is probably about 70 or 80k. Depends on the course, but you could probably be going about 39 kilometers an hour. Speed's not a very good measure for cycling, because if you're going on a hilly course, it's obviously going to be slower. So,
Of course.
but A4 is where pretty much everybody starts. And then you accumulate enough points, you move up to A3, A2, and then A1. A1 is pretty much the elite, I suppose.
But in running, say, because I'd be familiar with running, not familiar with bikes. In running, you know, you start off, you run a 5k, then you run a 10k, then you run a half marathon, then you run a marathon, and some people go to ultra marathons, some people stick with 5ks and go fucking really fast, or 10ks, people have their kind of ideal distance.
Yeah.
Is there something similar in cycling, or...
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, sorry. I didn't really know what you were getting at, and I suppose it doesn't really apply similar to running, but like A4 races would generally be about 70 or 80k, A3 would probably be about 100k, A2 and A1 generally get mashed in together because there's not enough people for the categories. They're probably about 140, could be 160, and yeah, they would do maybe 2 or 3 day races as well. So they'd go on a Friday, race on a Friday, race on a Saturday, race on a Sunday.
And is that the one race that takes 3 days? Or?
Yeah, a stage race you call it.
Okay. You see, again, this is the beauty of getting people like you on and people like me talking to you, because I haven't a fucking clue. Like, every so often I hear the Tour de France. It is the Tour de France.
It is the Tour de France, yeah.
Every so often I hear the Tour de France, and I was like, oh no, the Tour de France is on today. And then I hear it's on again, like the next day, and I'm like, or you know, the week after. And
It's
I'm
on
like,
for 3 weeks.
but like, what the
21
fuck? I
days.
don't. But you see, this is the thing, and the beauty of this platform is I get people in from different loops, and you're in the cycling loop.
Yeah.
And like, there's loads of people listening to this that don't know. Like, the Tour de France is what, 3 weeks long or something?
21 days, 21 stages. So yeah, 3 weeks long.
Right. So I
Right
do.
around France.
So for what, you start off at A4, and there's no stages or anything. It's
Yeah.
just a start line and a finish line. Is the start line and the finish line generally the same place?
Yeah, you generally would do laps of a course because you can't really close off too many roads around the country. Like, so you generally would do a lap of a course. So this weekend I'm racing in Comesson, so we'll start in Dunsany Football Club, go out to the main Dublin Road, back to Comesson, back to Dunsany, and do that 4 or 5 times.
Okay, so you'll actually lap. Okay, right.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that. You see, again, little things like that I wouldn't have a clue of. So you started at A4. How long were you in A4? Or
I'm still in it.
Okay, sorry.
This is what the vlog is about. I can't get out of the thing.
And what, you need to build up points?
You need to
or-
build up points. You need to get 13 points. I've got 7 points.
And is that because you're not racing enough, or you're not fast enough, or both, or what?
Well, I'm definitely not racing. I'm racing enough. I'm just not placing enough. So you get points for the first 8. So the first will get 10 points. Second will, I think it's 10 points or 8 points. Second, yeah, down to 8. Then 8 gets like 1 point or whatever. But
And is there races that are kind of... Are you entering races that are too difficult, or is that a thing? I mean, if it's...
I suppose, yeah. Look, you can enter races that would suit you better. Like, I suppose at A4 you're not going to be a specialist in anything. Like, there's the people who would specialise in just a sprint at the end of a race. So they'll carry on with the whole bunch, and then they'll sprint at the end and beat everybody.
Okay.
There's people who would specialise in climbing hills. So they'll be super light, and when they get to a hill in a race, they'll just fuck off up the hill and off, and nobody will catch them. And then there's people who, I suppose, yeah, will specialise in getting into breaks and just going along and just basically getting away from the bunch and just riding away on their own. Super strong fuckers. I fall into none of those categories. Or at least if I am in one of those categories, I have no idea which one I'm in.
Is that a category in itself?
No, that's just general race. So like, you could have a completely pan flat race. So nobody is ever going to get away in a pan flat race because it's all about basically drafting and stuff like that. I'm terrible at explaining this. I know this. But on a pan flat race, a sprinter will generally win because everybody will stick together at the end, and the sprinter will go and he'll win with like 10-second effort.
Okay, so a pan flat race being no hills.
No hills. Yeah.
Okay, and
which is pretty much most races in Ireland.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned something there, drafting. I'm familiar with what drafting is, but can you just lay that out for people who don't know what it is?
Yeah, so drafting is pretty much hiding yourself from the wind. So in a line of cyclists, if there's 2 or 3 in front of you, you could get basically the benefit of up to 40%, meaning you would use 40% less effort than the guy at the front of the line of cyclists.
So you're in his slipstream.
Is
that the word?
Yeah.
Because they have that in Formula 1, I think. Drivers will, if you're on the same team, a driver will purposely let you sit in behind them, so you can pick up speed. They'll pull out of the way, and it just gives you that little bit of
and that's
something.
How the sprinters work. That's how they operate. They'll sit in the slipstream all day long until they get to that point where they go, and then they go off like a bullet.
And is there pairings? So do you always race as an individual, or can you race, like if you're a sprinter, would you have your buddy who isn't a sprinter, say, sit in front of you, or is that against the rules, or what?
No. Ideally, yeah. Like, in an ideal world, people would race as a team. But when you're at my level, you're training Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever, 3 days a week, and then going racing at the weekend. It's very hard to say, okay, you know what, lad, you sit in behind me. I'll do all the work for you.
You get all the glory.
And you get all the glory, you know. And nobody wants to be in A4. Everybody wants to get out of it. So everybody's going for points. Now, if you move higher up the ranks and you move into like an A1 situation, like people will generally work as a team because you have to. You never win a race on your own unless you're super strong.
Right.
So at A4, in my level, it's all everybody for themselves.
And in relation to your level specifically, because you're at essentially entry level.
Yeah, exactly.
So anybody that's thinking about doing this is going to be smack bang in the same race as you.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about getting the likes of yourself in here. Like I had Graham Mackin on here a couple of months ago, and he did the race across America, and he's an elite high level cyclist. But when he talks about cycling, he's a little bit out of reach of most people. You're exactly where people thinking about getting into cycling would like to be.
Partly why I wrote the blog.
Yes.
And I suppose like it is that kind of my thinking now is that sport in general has become way too distant for people to relate to. Like, even the interviews after a football match or whatever, you look at the interview, they don't say anything. They're scripted. They just come out and they say, how was the game? Yeah, it was good, whatever. Like, yeah, we played well. I must thank my teammates, blah, 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 blah. Just drivel, scripted drivel.
Yeah.
And you don't see any insights into it at all. Like, and then you say, oh yeah, Sergio Aguero scored a hat-trick for Man City last night. And then he just hops in his car and drives off. Like, that's not relatable. There's no real life there. It's not like, okay, I'm going to watch a football team now because they're the lads from down the road. Like, there's people supporting Liverpool, there's people supporting Man United. They're not down the road. How can you relate to footballers playing for a team in a foreign country that isn't even their local club? Like, they've come from Brazil and they've come from Germany.
Yeah.
And people might have a different opinion. Like, obviously, like, I've got a gripe with football.
No, look, I share that with you, and so do many people listening.
Yeah, I just think sport has become far unrelatable now. Like,
I couldn't
especially
agree more.
elite sport. Like,
Couldn't agree more. Like the footballers, $200,000 a week or whatever the fuck they're on. Like, how is that attainable?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I used to think for years that I wouldn't have a gripe with money in sport. I don't really have a gripe with money in sport, but it has dulled it down by any amount. It's just, I find it really dull.
Yeah, no, I'd be inclined to agree with you.
So look, maybe my blogs are going to be dull as well. I'm nobody to talk, but like, I don't know. Sponsorship really ruins everything because you can't say anything on the line because of the sponsors.
Yeah, well, I've no intention of getting a sponsor for this. I absolutely 100% intend to monetize it and 100% want to make this my livelihood. But I've no no interest in getting a sponsor.
Like
I might sponsor myself. My business might sponsor me, but that's, you know,
it's pretty good because like you're not basically forced under pressure to kind of not say things that you would like to say.
no, I'm not beholden to anyone, and I'm not afraid of, you know, pissing anybody off. I'll piss everybody off, everyone and anyone off.
Like if you look at Lance Armstrong when he got caught, the biggest story basically, yeah, he got caught, but one of the biggest stories that came out of that was, oh, he lost all his sponsors.
Yeah,
all the sponsors, and he even says, oh, that was $100 million day because he lost all the sponsors because of what he did. Now, your sponsors would want to be stupid not to know what he was doing.
there's doing it and there's getting caught, though, isn't there?
There is doing it and getting caught, but like, come on, like.
No, look, I'm totally on board. And it's funny that you mentioned this because what got me into MMA, I'd watch the UFC like most kind of red-blooded men. You'd seen and you're like, fucking hell, that's mad or whatever. But it was in America, and you know, it was guys with kind of funny accents in a different country, the other side of the world, and there was never any, like, the idea of me getting into that just never, the thought never entered my head.
Where would you go?
Well, at the time, I didn't even think to look in Ireland because I would have just assumed there was nothing here. Now, there would have been if I had looked, but again, this idea, it was so far removed from me, I never even thought to look for it here. Do you know that kind of way? It was so unattainable and so kind of distant to me, I never even bothered looking. If I looked, it would have been there, but I never looked because it was just so out of reach. But then a show came on called The Ultimate Fighter. And what The Ultimate Fighter was, the first season I watched, I think there was 11 fighters. And they were all, it was actually lads from the UK and lads from America were put into this house and they all had to kind of fight each other, and the winner got a six-figure deal with the UFC. And I was watching this, and the lads that were in it, there was a couple of lads from Liverpool, a lad from Manchester, and they were normal people, like they were just dudes. And I was looking at them training and sparring and then competing, and I was kind of looking at them going, those lads aren't that different to me. I could try this at least.
I could take him.
I'd take any man. But no, it just left it that little bit more kind of realistic. And, you know, I ended up fucking competing. I trained as a martial artist for 5 years and fought and won and fought and lost and did the whole thing. Like you, I'd be that kind of compulsive guy. Yeah. I said I'd give it a go and ended up doing it 4 or 5 times a week for 5 years. Do you know that kind of way? Yeah. But it made it accessible, and I don't think soccer is accessible for young lads coming up. When, as you say, they're not even people from your country or your, you know, even from the country of the club that they're from, what they're getting paid, the bullshit that they speak after games, the sponsorship. It just, I don't know, it dulls it all down. So that's the beauty of your blog. It's people looking to get into it, reading and listening to the thoughts of somebody who's not that far away from where they are, like.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, soccer is so like unrelatable now that like you even look at the amount of kids that are going basically through the system in the UK, and I don't know the figures, but there is a massive amount of footballers who go into the youth system in the UK and just get spat out because they don't bring youth players through anymore. They just go and buy another Brazilian. So why would you give an 18-year-old a chance when you can just go buy an 18-year-old Brazilian who's like superstar? Like, they never get that chance. So it becomes less and less, like you say, attainable. You're not seeing the guy from down the road making it to play for Man United. You're not seeing the likes of, say, like Paul McGrath gone over. Like, there is like the odd exception. If there wasn't, we wouldn't have a national football team, I suppose.
Of course.
But you're not seeing the likes of Paul McGrath or Kevin Moore and going over and playing for Man United anymore because they're just signing superstars because they're under pressure to get results, to stay in the league, probably from their sponsors again.
No, of course, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And presumably, there's not a whole pile of money in the racing that you're doing. You haven't gone complete.
I have won
corrupted yet.
I have won £40.
Nice,
40
nice
British pounds. I won a race up north.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And you were saying that your training was it 2 or 3 times a week?
Yeah, probably about 2 to 3 times a week, probably about 8 to 12 hours.
Okay. And what distances is that you're covering thereabouts?
During the winter, during the week, I cover no distance. I stay in a stationary spot in a room in the house, staring at the wall with a pair of headphones on.
Because that's
Listening
the thing.
to yourself, Frano.
Oh, very good, very good.
You're my coach.
But there is that. It's seasonal, obviously.
Yeah,
and it's
very
that.
seasonal. Now, I have enough gear to get out in the cold and go out in the cold. And I do that on Sundays or whatever. But yeah, most of the winter, Monday to Friday, because of work, you just don't get out. So you're basically in this box, spinning like a hamster.
And on the training that you're doing, in order to get better, and again, I can only kind of relate to the running. Like I get into running a couple of years ago, and I was trying to get my 5k speed down, and I got it down. I never broke the 20-minute mark. It was sick. I hit 20 minutes in like 4 seconds 3 different times. never broke the 20 minutes somehow. But I was chatting to a good friend of mine, Dave Webster, and he was saying like what was my training like, and I was like, well, I run every day. And he was like, well, what are you running? And I was like, well, I'm trying to get my 5k time down, so I'm not doing the longer runs. I'm just running 5ks. And he goes, so you're running 5k every day? I was like, yeah. And he goes, you're running it as fast as you possibly can. And I was like, well, yeah, I want to get my time down. And he goes, yeah, but if you had a race that you were... He explained to me that you'll get your personal bests during races. So he said you're best off to enter a 5k race and train to peak for that day.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And he goes, but what you're doing is you're booking a 5k race in for like 2 weeks time, and over the next 14 days what you're doing is running 5k as fast as you can every day, and you're wondering why you're not getting any faster. And I was like, fuck yeah, you're right. So we went to the running track in Claremont, and he had me doing like 100-meter sprints and hill repeats then up at the hill of Tara and different things like that. So
Yeah.
are you doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah, basically on the same premise. If you want to get fast, you have to go fast. So you can't sustain your 100 meters sprint for 5k.
Of course.
But in doing that, you're building up your strength in your legs to do that. So yeah, I am essentially doing that structured training. I wasn't doing it for a while, and I wasn't getting any faster like yourself. Like if you go around on a bike and just trash yourself for an hour, all you get good at doing is just trashing yourself for an hour.
Yeah.
Like you don't get good at things like, and like that, like we're running, like yeah, you have to do intervals and stuff like that to actually get faster. It's just the way it works. Like you can't, if you expect to go out and just trudge along, you'll only get good at trudging along. But if you do 2 10-minute slots of really pushing yourself, taking a break and pushing yourself, eventually you can shorten the gap between those 2 slots, and you actually are faster. There you go. Hey presto, it's done.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Now, I don't know. I'm not a coach. I don't know the science behind it, but that's in my head is the thinking around the way it works basically.
And do you have a coach?
I had a coach last year, yeah, an Italian guy from Navan called Matteo.
Okay.
And he did a plan for me. And yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, I got faster. But I couldn't afford to keep it up because they're pretty expensive. So
Yeah. And would you book him in? Like, again, I do a bit of personal training with Bernard Smith of Ultimate Conditioning. Shout out to Bernard, who still hasn't come on, you bollocks. But I'll do a session. Like I did 5 or 6 weeks with him just there recently. And he's after teaching me a certain amount about weightlifting now that I can do my own weightlifting, and I'll pick him up now and when I feel I need to, maybe in 6 months' time or whenever it is. Would you feel the same as that, or do you know enough to kind of coach yourself, or what way does that work?
Yeah, well, I've been doing a bit like before I hooked up with Matteo last year. I was doing my own structured training, basically just buying a winter plan and sticking to that winter plan from like a generic plan, like like you get like running weekly or cycling weekly, and you just, do this 21 week and you'll be faster. So following that kind of thing. But then last year when I hooked up with Matteo, he'd do like a one-on-one session every month. So like that, like you would probably do with Bernard Smith, he would show you how to deadlift or squat or
absolutely.
bench press properly. Matteo would bring you out on the road and show you how to sprint properly, show you the proper form to be in on the bike to sprint to get the most power out. That kind of thing. Like it's kind of similar like if you're going playing golf and you swung a golf club, you wouldn't have a fucking clue what you're doing. You need someone to show you exactly how to do it. Otherwise you're never going to get better at golf.
And on just when you mentioned the squats and the deadlifts and that, do you do weight training as part of the cycling, or is that part of cycling at all, weight training, or
no,
it's not, or
it
you
is
don't?
It is part of it, but I kind of shy away from it. I don't really I've never been one for the gym. I don't really like the gym. I don't like going into a room and lifting weights. I haven't got the muscles for it. I know you build the muscles. I did do CrossFit for a while, and I just wrecked my shoulder. But I did actually. That was one time where I actually was kind of ripped. But no, I don't have the discipline to go in on my own and go, I have to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to do this now, because I just get bored.
And is that not the beauty of having a cycling club? And again, I don't know anything about cycling clubs, but do you not organise, leg day, or you know what I mean, like whatever it is,
National Leg Day. Bring out your shaven beauties.
Bring out your what?
Shaven beauties.
I've actually read that in a part of your blog today. You were going out for a race, so you had to shave or something like that.
I spent Saturday night in the bath. Shaving my legs
with your Pantene Pro V and your fucking
There's not many people who can say that and still stay married.
And what's that? Is that to get the lycra on, or is it like wind resistance or weight or all of the above?
It just looks good. There is no explanation. It just looks good. It looks better.
There we go.
It feels good actually as well. It's nice to have the wind, but then I just covered them up with leg warmers the next day anyway, because it's too fucking cold. But yeah, it's all about the etiquette, like.
And getting into the gear, because that's another thing that you mentioned. And a mate of mine, Dave Webster, shout out to Dave and Graham Mackin from Spun Cycles for all your cycling needs and running needs. 75% off if you use the code words off the lead. Where does the gear come into it? Because I remember Dave telling me before that you can buy time, and I was like, "Oh, I like that. That's a real sales pitch right there."
That's where
because you can't you?
This is where you start getting yourself into trouble. This is the stuff that drains your bank account.
Yeah, this is where the one click becomes a real problem.
This is where you stop looking at your belly and you start looking. You know what? I could get a bit faster if I just bought another hat, a fast hat. No, well you can buy like. Oh, there's like a hierarchy of things you can actually buy to make yourself faster. So you can buy faster wheels. So you get the deep section wheels. You would have seen them in triathlons. Guys with a big disc wheel at the back.
Yeah.
And a deep section wheel at the front.
That's without the spokes, say. It's like a solid...
Yeah, solid disc wheel at the back.
Yeah.
You can't put them in races. Like, you just wouldn't do that.
In what, in cycling races?
In a race, no.
Why not?
I don't know. Maybe you're actually banned. I don't know. Probably because it's not very safe. You get a gust of wind on a disc wheel, it's going to take you off the other side of the road.
Well, fuck yeah, and into someone maybe or something.
Yeah, I actually don't know. It just looks fucking stupid as well if you were out in a race.
You just not to go off track, but the safety element of it's fucking dangerous.
Yeah, it's not safe. It's not safe, and it's quite stupid. Because
a friend of mine, and I think yours, Colin Lydon, he came off the bike and did himself a fucking savage mischief, didn't he?
Fucking killed himself.
Yeah, head first into a rock or something at God knows how many miles an hour.
Yeah, I think he was coming down at Enniskerry. He was actually out with James at the time.
James Quinn,
and he was coming down from Enniskerry, from what I know, and he had a bit of ice and slid off the bike and went head first into a stone wall.
Jesus, and see, that's the scary thing. Like if you had told me he made a ramp and barreled down a hill full tilt and hit the ramp, and he didn't do something right, and like he didn't make some sort of a check and bust himself, that I could live with. But you're pottering along, mind your own business, you're doing everything you should be doing, and you fucking hit ice or something, like that's a little bit too out of your control for my liking. Yeah,
I don't know how much Colin actually likes to talk about it, so I wouldn't really want to go into too much detail about it, but he was in a bad way. Yeah, no, aside from him, but just cycling in general, because... Yeah, well, look, it is inherently dangerous. Like, you're cycling at 60 kilometers an hour. In an A4 race, there could be up on 100 people. So if you're coming to a sprint with 100 people at 60 kilometers an hour, all it takes is one touch of a wheel or one clip of a handlebar in the middle of a bunch, and everybody goes off.
It fucking skittles, basically.
If you've ever seen a race where there's an accident, it's just carnage. It's like somebody has just picked a grenade, fucked it into the middle of the peloton, and it's just gone boom, and everybody just scatters and on the deck. Like, you generally in races you'd hear the scrape of carbon first hitting the ground, and for the next thing you think is, okay, where the fuck is that? And then you kind of start seeing the spread. So you're praying initially, okay, am I going to hit this? Like, oh fuck,
because when you're in a pack, you can't see shit.
You can't see fuck all.
What are you looking at?
You should be looking straight ahead. You shouldn't be looking around. Like, I was at a race last year and a guy starts looking around coming into the finish, and he just goes straight into the guy in front of him. And next thing, like that,
half a
a
dozen
bomb
of these are
goes
down.
off. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
half a dozen of them go down, and then people have broken wheels, broken bones, ripped jerseys, the whole lot. Like it can be pretty rough. Like
It's all part of it, though, is it? Is that part of the kind of thrill of it?
There's the risk that you may get killed.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. It's not nice. It's not a nice part of it. I don't go out on a Sunday and go, you know what, if I survive this is going to be some rush. I go out going, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Because if you're thinking about crashing, you're not loose enough to actually react. You probably will crash.
Yeah, you could be your own worst
It's the
enemy.
last thing in your mind. Like,
So you wouldn't think of it, or if you do, it's bad to think of the possibility of a crash, because I suppose it's out of your control to a certain degree.
You like that. You give extra distance to the person in front of you. So the first race I ever rode in, 15 minutes down the road, I crashed.
You crashed, or someone crashed into you, or
Well, somebody crashed into me. Some
Right.
guy came up my right hand side and locked handlebars, and I went down, and that was probably about 40 kilometers an hour. And I hit the deck, and I went into a ball, and somebody clipped the back of my helmet.
Jesus.
And then I got up and my bike was in shit. That was 15 minutes into my very first race.
Welcome to cycling.
And I was like, oh, what the fuck have I got myself in for? But, like, I always insisted that, like, set me back about 6 months in actually getting anyway decent at cycling. Because every time I went to a race after that, I was afraid to put myself in the bunch of people in case somebody clipped me.
Yeah, of
I
course.
was afraid to get too close to the bike in front of me in case I clipped them or in case they braked and we hit the deck. I was terrified of crashing. It took me a long time to get over that.
Yeah, you'd lose your nerve handy enough, I'd say. Because
Yeah.
there is a certain amount of nerve. Like, forget about crashing into other people or being in a pack or even being in a race. Presumably, if you're going down a hill of any description, because I know myself on a bike, it doesn't have to be that steep a hill for you to pick up some serious fucking speed. Like,
Yeah, like it takes time. It does take time to get used to it. Like it takes time to get confidence. Like even taking a corner and just leaning over and throwing yourself around the corner at speed. That takes time. It takes confidence. Like to
Yeah.
actually do it properly.
yeah, I wouldn't have that at
Like
all.
you need to do it enough times to go, okay, I've done this before. This is no problem.
Yeah. And presumably you're in the cycling shoes that, what do they call them? Cleats or something, is it?
So
Yeah.
you're just clipped into the pedal.
So you are literally attached
Yeah.
to the bike, like.
Most of my crashes have come because I can't clip out on time.
Really?
Yeah.
If you're a bit sharper, you'd kind of jump off the bike, is it? Or
Yeah, I'm a bit useless at clipping out. I broke my bike last year before a race because I didn't clip out on time. And I just foolishly tried to stand up on the pedals, balance the bike.
yeah, yeah.
And then I decided, okay, I'll go now. And then I just fell over. Busted my front gear lever. €150 I had to
Lovely.
spend on a new one. And that's the thing, like that's how expensive it is. It's so fucking expensive, this sport.
And how expensive is it? I mean, what does your, if you don't want to say the price of your bike, but the average bike in the races that you're in, what are you looking at, like?
You can race on it. You can put any bike in. Like my bikes cost me nearly $2,500.
Right.
But there's guys with bikes that are $8,000, $10,000. Like,
And again, buying time.
yeah. But then you buy a bike, and then you want to go faster. Like you said, you can buy speed.
Yeah.
So then you want to buy a new set of wheels to make it go slightly faster because they're more aerodynamic.
And if you've got new wheels, you may as well get new brakes.
Well,
Maybe not brakes, but
brakes.
you know what I mean? A chain or gear or whatever
well,
the fuck
that's
it
it.
is.
Like the gear, then the clothes. Then you get into clothes. Then you go, okay, I need to get an aero helmet because an aero helmet is more beneficial than aero wheels, so they say. And then they say, okay, well, your normal jersey isn't good enough. You need to get an aero jersey. You need to get a skin suit. And that's when you get the real bellies, when you get the skin suit. So you get a skin suit and you save. It's all about saving watts. So watts is your power, basically. The amount of, like, if you can imagine a hamster on a wheel powering a light bulb,
Yes.
that's your watts. Like, it takes so many watts, 60 watt bulb, so you need 60 watts to light the bulb.
Okay.
So I have a power meter on my bike now that tells me I am pushing 260 watts or 300 watts.
Okay, and you aim to maintain that, do you? Or...
Well, in training, in training, you would have kind of your threshold watts. So basically, the amount of watts you would hit before you would basically start to generate lactate acid and cramp up and basically your muscles get tired and fatigue and all that kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm getting way off the point here.
Not at all. No. By all means, the nature of these conversations is that they tend to go down all sorts of different rabbit holes. Like,
Yeah, so watts is like the gold standard basically of training. So you could go out and run your 5k. You could run your 5k and your heart could be racing because you've had a cup of coffee beforehand.
yeah,
But say if you went out on your bike and cycled 10k and you had a cup of coffee, your heart is racing. You think, oh god, that was really tough. But you're not actually measuring the power that you've put in.
yes,
So you could be tired and push less power, or you could be fresh as a daisy and push more power, but still feel exactly the same. You know?
No, I do absolutely, yeah. And that you're touching on something there that seems to be a real cycling thing. This obsession over detail. I can't think of another sport that has it. Like, you're literally monitoring
Everything.
the wattage of your fucking output. Like,
You have a little bike computer on the front of your bike, right? And it has your heart rate, your speed, your cadence, which is how many times you turn the pedals in a minute. Your power,
as opposed to watts, or power being watts.
your watts, yeah, your power and your watts, and your distance or whatever. You can measure everything.
And what is it though about cyclists though? Because they all tend to be, and again, speaking in wide sweeping statements here, but they all tend to be quite anal. Like, you know, every little fucking cunt and detail. Like, I don't know, I can't think of another sport that's quite like that.
I don't know. I'd love to actually be more relaxed. I'd love to turn up on a rickety old bike and just shabby old gear, but I can't do it. I just can't do it. I don't know why.
But you see, you fit into the cyclist pigeonhole perfectly because of that. Do you know, like, I know there's something about them that you're all obsessive, compulsive kind of guys. I've often wondered what it is about the sport that makes people gravitate towards it.
I don't know. I actually don't know. Maybe it's the freedom of it, like that you can actually go off and cycle somewhere for like 2 or 3 hours and just basically soak up the environment and just kind of get out of your head and not have anybody bother you at all.
Cycle away from all your problems.
Yeah, but exactly. I don't know what it is. I honestly don't know. I don't know why it's so addictive.
Yeah, but you love it.
Probably because there is that element that you could always get better. You could always get faster. You can always buy something that's going to maybe potentially make you faster.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I actually don't know. It's a great social sport as well. Like, so, like, you know, you're fit and active. Like, you've mates to do it, so you can go out and spin with your mates. Like get back to the basics of cycling. Like, when you're younger, what do? You go cycling around with your friends and your bikes.
Yeah.
During the summer.
Absolutely, yeah.
So maybe that's it. Maybe you're harking back to your childhood.
Maybe.
Maybe you go back to the womb.
Too far back.
Yeah, maybe.
So you're aiming to get to category 3, is it?
Category 3, yeah, A3, yeah. I'm trying to get there this year.
And what's the difference between A4 and A3?
Some people will tell you there's a massive difference. There's not as many crashes. That people have made the grade. They're a bit more experienced.
Okay, it's obviously a
it's
higher
a higher
level.
standard, yeah. Everybody who's in A3 is pretty much got points. They've done well in races.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a better standard, I suppose.
And age-wise, are you peaking? Is like the top cyclists in the world? Like, what age are the top cyclists? Thereabouts.
It'd be similar to most athletes, like in their mid-20s, like so.
Okay.
Yeah, but like that's the funny thing in Ireland. Like, most people are the same as me. Most people have actually played football, because that's what you do in Ireland. You play Gaelic football, you play soccer, and then when that's over, you pick up a bike and you go jump on and race a bike.
Yeah,
or you go off
nothing.
running, or do marathons.
Yeah.
You know, or do nothing and watch Netflix.
There's the thing you mentioned on doing marathons. What I like about marathons is it's a set distance and you're racing against yourself, and it's a time. Do you know the kind of way?
Yeah.
Is there an equivalent in bike racing? Like, what would you know what your 100k time is, or is that a thing?
No, but that's the thing about bike racing. Like in a marathon, you could generally guarantee the marathon is on a flat course.
Yeah,
relatively enough.
Just not
like, would
that.
you measure your marathon on, say, doing the Dublin Marathon? Like, or would you say, okay, that's a hillier course. Would you take that into account with your marathon time?
Well, you see, I've only ran the Dublin City Marathon.
Yeah.
And I've only done it twice. It's the only marathons I've ever ran. So I that's my marathon time.
But very few marathons would bring you over a mountain.
True.
Like if you did a marathon over a mountain, you wouldn't say, okay, I did that an hour slower than my Dublin
it was
City
the
marathon.
slowest marathon I ever ran. It was terrible. Yeah.
But like bike racing, kind of, I suppose the people who design bike races are a bit sadistic. Like they like to see people suffering, and they like to see them going over mountains. So you can't really measure your time for doing 100k. Some people would. Some people, they say like, okay, there's a 160-kilometer spin that goes around Mead every year. They might say, I did that last year in 10 hours. I might aim to do it in 8 hours.
Yeah.
I suppose you can measure it like that way. But like in a race, you're only really measuring it whether you finish first 8.
It's funny though, because there's a funny dichotomy there. Like cyclists are these super competitive, super kind of anal guys, but they don't have that, you know, like runners do. Like what you said about running a marathon, like different marathons some can be hillier than others, so you can't compare one against the other. But I know what my best 5k time is, and I know what my best 10k time is, and I know what my 100-meter sprint is.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be an equivalent in
You could do
racing, or is there?
Well, if you're a time trialist, you'll know what your best 10-mile time trial is.
What's the time trial?
Time trial is pretty much what you would have been doing as part of a triathlon, where you just get on a bike and go from A to B, and that's your time, is between those two distances. You're on your own. You're not in a group. I suppose triathlon is probably a bad example, but you essentially go off a start ramp and go for 10 kilometers, and that's your time. So in the Tour de France, there would be a time trial at the start, and there's time trial stages,
Right.
where people would pretty much race against the clock.
But that's not the type of racing that you do.
No.
So
That's
what's
another bike that I haven't bought.
Which, the time trial bike?
Yeah.
Right.
I won't be buying a time trial bike. If my
Not
wife
yet.
is listening.
So what is there, if that's time trial racing, what's the racing you do?
Just open racing, open road
Open racing.
Yeah.
Okay, and is there that's 2 different types? Is there a third, fourth, or is there different types, or?
No, not really. No, you could have like, I guess what you could put stage races into, like 1 day open races is what I do. Then you can put in stage races, which is the likes of your Tour de France. I'm not going to race in the Tour de France, but there is stage races around the country. Like there's ones in Wexford that's 3 days, or there's one in Oma that's like 3 days as well. Then there's the Ross, which is Ireland's kind of international stage race. So like local guys can compete in that, and they do that for 8 days. Well, 8 stages.
Right.
So that would be the end goal, is to actually compete in the Ross, if I ever got that high. So you need to be A1 or A2 to compete in the Ross.
Okay, and that's attainable? Like, again, I don't know your level or any
it's
level.
It's not
like,
impossible, I suppose. Like, time isn't really on my side because I'm 35 now.
but what will it take in order for
It
you
takes
to do
a
that?
shitload of training.
Right.
A shitload of training. You pretty much have to be training like a professional for the entire winter, going to every hard race there is in the country. And then when you get there in May, then you're just surviving. You're not going to win the race. You're just there to survive.
Right. Just to stay in it, to be glad to be in it, basically.
But the majority of guys are just there to survive and to be glad to be in it, because it is like it's an internationally ranked race. Like there's guys that come over from England and France, teams that come over from England and France, like professional teams, and racing it. And they
big deal, like as big a deal as it gets, like.
Yeah, and they race against guys like from, well, there's the team in Navan that were in it last year. Like there's county teams, like, and they race in it as well.
And are you in a competitive team within your club?
No.
And is there such a thing, or?
No, generally, like, say, like, in the likes of the Ross, you would put a team in a stage race. You'd never really put a team into an open race. Like, you'd race with your teammates, and the higher you get up, yeah, you might work with them on tactics and stuff like that to actually make it that you win the race. But, yeah, I wouldn't say I have a team, but me and a couple of guys from the club would do races at the weekend. Like,
Yeah.
that kind of way.
And what are you talking about in your blog? Like, what are the... Like, you tell me. I mean, you've been writing it for how long?
Probably the past year now. So I've 10 entries.
Okay.
For the past year. What I write about is pretty much how the race went. I try not to go, the race went A, B, C, D. You know, I did this, then that happened, then this happened, and then that's the end. I find that kind of like kind of match report, really tedious stuff. I don't really like that.
Yeah.
And I kind of like to tell a story behind it. So basically, maybe like the latest one starts with me trying to find a glove on a Saturday night.
That's the one I actually read a bit today.
Because that's what cyclists are like. They're obsessive. I was in my head. I was like, I can't go to the race tomorrow if I can't find that glove. And I'm like about 20 different gloves, but I need this glove. Like, and it's constantly like that. Like, it's all that kind of stuff that goes with it. Like, it's the likes of looking at. I don't know if you've seen Strava. Do you know what Strava is?
I do, yeah. It's
So
like Map My Run for bikes.
It's like a social media for athletes. I don't like using the word athlete. I don't like calling myself an athlete. It kind of suggests that I'm better than I am, but it's a social media for people who go out and do shit, like biking or running. So, like the likes of Strava, like that can be like it's like it's got the negative side of social media as well. So on Facebook you see someone like, oh, look at my brand new car.
Yeah.
Like you look at Strava and this guy's out training 5 days a week, and I'd be racing against them, and I'm like, the fucker. What is he doing? What's he doing now? Like, what kind of training is he doing? And then they're putting up pictures of their new bike on Strava, and I'm like, maybe I need to get a new bike. And it's that kind of mental mindfuck shite that goes through my head that I'm trying to put on the pages. That I'm thinking, if I'm thinking this, surely somebody else is thinking this.
No, absolutely, yeah.
So it's just that kind of stuff. It's just the everyday, why do I actually think like this? I don't know.
But what I love about that, and what I loved about the little of your blog, admittedly, that I read only today, it gives that, it's the equivalent of me watching The Ultimate Fighter back in the day. It's kind of, it's reading, it's looking at it and going, this fucking McCann fella, he's not that much different than me. And here he is off fucking bike racing. And I have a bike, and I like cycling, and I might just give it a fucking lash, And
yeah.
Who knows, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time that they'll have gone from A4 to 3 to 2 and kind of done something.
They're the people I want to reach. That's exactly the audience I want to reach. Like, I'd like to maybe, I don't know. Somebody once said to me, as if it was ages ago, it was probably about 3 weeks ago. Somebody once told me, what's your end game with the blog? Like, one of my friends, I sent around to like 10 people and see what they thought of it. One of my friends said, what's your end game with the blog? How big do you think it could get? And I was like, well, like, there is no end game. I'm just doing it because I want to do it. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy writing. When I'm finished writing and I show it to somebody, mainly my wife, and she goes, yeah, that's good. That's shit. She's pretty good. She's probably the harshest critic I have. But he was like, what's the end game? Like, where do you see it growing? And I was like, well, I don't really know. I was like, I suppose, like, if somebody's running the 5K, maybe they could say, oh, I'm doing Couch to 5K. Why don't they tell their story of basically the likes of you kind of going out and trashing yourself and talking to your friend Webby and saying, and Webby going, you're actually doing that completely wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and that kind of thing. Like, and maybe they could do a series of blogs on the site and do 10 blogs or whatever, and then just kind of build it up. Like I say, you could do a 10K. Somebody wants to run the marathon, tell a story about doing the marathon. Like, just normal people, not people who are going out to say win the marathon. Just normal people with normal stories.
Yeah, it's gas, because your man Graham Mackin, again, that I had on, I've been pushing him towards setting up his social media platforms, like, Graham Mackin Athlete or whatever, or writing a blog or starting a podcast or whatever. And he's always said, oh, I feel like a bit of a dick doing that because, I'm not at a high enough level to do it. And I'm like, man, if you're winning gold in the Olympics or whatever, I don't care about your poxy blog or whatever else. I want to read the blog of a guy who's, not at a high level, who's at a relatively attainable level. Now, Mackin's probably a bit past that already.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I listened to his podcast, and like one of the interesting parts of it, I thought, was basically that he like got dehydrated and practically got the shits going down this fucking glass staircase or whatever they called it. Yeah. Maybe he didn't get the shits. Maybe I just threw that in.
But no, but I know what you mean.
But that's the kind of thing where it's like, those actual stories where people maybe, I don't know, fuck up on the hydration and are willing to admit it.
Yeah.
That's the more interesting stuff than actually going, you know what, aren't I great? Look at me, Serena Williams. I've just won Wimbledon for the 9th time. Again. How do I do it? I don't know.
I'm just great.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, you're right, absolutely. Because there's that real kind of human connection, and that's why I said to you at the start of this, and I say it to everybody, I don't try and interview people. And if I end up interviewing people, I regret it, or I don't want to do that, because interviews, they're just so contrived. It's like, so Darren, you started your new blog today. What inspired you to take out or to put pen to paper? And you're like, fuck off and die. Like, there's nothing real about that. Like,
there is in a way though. If you're talking to a normal person and you ask them like, why are you doing this? I think that's the most legitimate question you can ask. What inspired you? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, they're good questions, but if in the interview format, like usually when you look at something like the Late Late, which is a real interview format, and you're asked, what got you started, people give the prepared answer. Do you know that kind of way, and not the real answer?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about these conversations. Like, we've talked about fucking Strava and, cleats and crashing on bikes, and it goes all over the place, left, right and centre. And you might think, if you were, like, I'd say if you were a kind of a podcast exec and you were looking over the T's and C's of what I'm doing here, you might say, oh, that's not going to work. That's too tangential. People aren't, you need to keep focused. There needs to be a beginning, middle and an end.
Yeah.
But I'm going away from that completely and just having a normal conversation between two people, and that kind of works better, I think. And I think that's what you're going to get, hopefully, with your blog. Like,
yeah, well, the conversation is more engaging than an interview.
Big time. And when you're writing the blog, is it just as you feel it, or are you, what am I even trying to say? Like, are you thinking of writing it in the first person or the second person? Do you know that kind of way? Like, are you literally minded, or do you just fucking write out what's fucking
verbal diarrhea?
Yeah, well,
pretty much.
But that's what a conversation
or literal
is.
diarrhea, I suppose.
But like, put it this way: how many drafts of something would you write before you thought it was ready to be published, or would you just write it and it's done?
I generally just bang it out.
Yeah,
just get it done and then edit it afterwards.
Yeah.
So, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I would hope now that I'm actually going public, that I won't think about it too much, and I'd still continue to just write it as I feel it.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. I don't want to be pleasing people, way either. I don't want to be going, well, if I say this, well, what would people think of that?
Yeah, no, you're on the right track thinking like that, because I kind of, when I started this, I caught myself saying, and I catch myself saying this every so often, something like what you just said. They're all like, what would people think, or would I do this or would I do that? I'd have an idea in my head. I'm going to try this thing or that thing, and then I'd say, what would people like to hear? And then I kind of catch myself, and it's like, fuck people. Which one do I prefer? Which one do I want to do?
Yeah.
Because if you do it for you, you'll keep doing it, and there'll be longevity in it, and it'll be honest, and it'll be original, and it'll be something. But if you're doing it for other people, I don't know. It just
it gets back to the point. Like, if you're doing it, like, and it's something that you actually think, oh yeah, that'll actually be all right, somebody else is going to think that.
Yeah,
like there's that, like, what? There's nearly 4 million people in this country.
Yeah.
Surely somebody else is going to think that.
But you see, 4 million people in this country, there's fucking 7 billion of us worldwide. Like, this little piddly platform that I have has been listened to in about 35 different countries. Now, granted, the majority of it's coming from Ireland, but once you put something online, borders just kind of dissolve. You're as likely to have some lad reading it in Australia as you are in Kells. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
Which is, and it's the same. We're all human. You know that kind of way. We're all essentially the same. So I don't know. There's just something cool about putting it up online, because you kind of move on. Do you know, you get it done, you get it up, and you move on. And fair fucking play to you, because it takes a certain amount of balls to put a bit of yourself out there to be up there for criticism. It's that anxiety that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it is. It's like that. I know there's a book out there called "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway" or whatever like that. And that name always goes round in my head. Like, and like, there's always a thing, like, basically, there was something I heard ages ago, basically, that fear is only the unknown. Like, you only fear things because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, like, just do it anyway. Just do it, and then see what the consequences are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, generally, the consequences are fine. Generally, people are actually all right. People don't criticize you, like, straight to your face and say, you know what, you're doing a blog there. They won't go out of their way to say, that's absolute shit. They'll say, oh yeah, whatever. Then you might get some people who'll say, oh, who's your man think he is? But they won't say it to your face. So you'll never see those people.
Fuck them. And there's a thing, I don't know if it's an Irish thing, but this idea of begrudgery, I have a feeling that begrudgery is self-imposed. Do you know that kind of way? Like, people might be begrudging you, but you don't know whether they are or not, and you can't tell. And maybe they're not, but if you think they are, then they may as well be. Do you know that kind of way? So it's all you. Begrudgery is on you, like, do you know?
Oh yeah, like it is. It's like what you say. You need to get over yourself.
Big time, yeah.
Like, just don't care what other people think. It
Yeah.
took me a long time to actually get to that point where I said, you know what, I don't actually care what you think. I'm just gonna do whatever I want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And more.
And not in the way like, you know, I go go into pure anarchy or anything.
Of course,
like,
yeah.
But like, just be like I don't care what other people's opinions are of me. Like I'm old, but I'm too old to think of that. Like when you're in your 20s and your early 20s, it's all about basically the look and the image, and like don't be different, just be the same.
Yeah.
Like especially if you're in like you went to St. Pat's, you know what St. Pat's is like.
Yeah.
You cannot be different in St. Pat's.
Yeah.
You would be slaughtered.
Yeah.
So you
absolutely.
come out of that, and then you go into college, and then it's like just be the same. Like I mean, some people they have the mental capacity to just block it out. I didn't. I just like I was so focused on like being samey and normal, and just kind of like don't step out from the crowd. Where am I even going with this?
No, but you're right though, because there's camouflage in the herd. Have you heard that? Because you're a bit into your psychology as well. Was it you that sent me the thing on personalities?
Yeah. Personality isn't static, so you can't say that somebody is an anxious person. Like I wouldn't consider myself an anxious person, but when I walked in here, I was anxious as fuck.
Of course, yeah.
So that's a snapshot in time. So if you did a personality test on me then, yeah, you'd say, oh, he's an anxious person.
Yeah, but you can be more predisposed than most to anxiety.
At a certain snapshot in time. So say you're an anxious person, say you're an overconfident, you're a really confident person.
Yeah.
And you're confident to the point that you don't care, you'll do anything. And then you eventually do something that has a negative impact, a massively negative impact on your life. You're not going to be an overconfident person after that point.
I know what you mean. You can get knocked.
I'd imagine you would be a fairly cautious person after that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a bloody scientist or
No, but what reminded me about that was you were saying that about this idea of, you know, not wanting to kind of stand out from the crowd and not wanting to put your head above the parapet and get fucking shot down for it, basically. And you reminded me of work by your man Robert Sapolsky, and he was studying zebras, I think, at the time, and he was sitting out in the fucking savannah in Africa or whatever, and he was studying one particular zebra to, you know, making notes on what it was doing and its habits and whatever else. And he'd be looking at the zebra and he'd look down and then he'd look back up and he'd go, fuck, what zebra was I looking at? Because they all fucking blend into each other.
Yeah.
So he put a dab of dye on its haunch so he could identify it.
Yeah.
What happened to zebra? The lions killed it. Like that. Because it stood out from the crowd. And there is that thing in nature that's kind of hardwired into us that there's protection in the herd, and that idea of being an individual is fucking dangerous. Like that's hardwired into our psyche nearly. So, but we don't have lions and fucking tigers and bears to hide from anymore. So we can afford to, I don't know, be different and shine and become ourselves, and you know.
Yeah, well, certain parts of society you would be preferable to hide yourself, like.
Oh, absolutely, no, 100%.
Like if you went into St. Pat's in a pair of pink shoes, people are going to go, the fucking stadia.
No,
and they'll
100%.
say it to your face.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
you don't wear your pink shoes into St. Pat's.
Yeah, fucking right.
So you
don't.
hide yourself.
Yeah.
Not that you're being chased by a lion.
But you see, these days the lion has been replaced by the bully.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah, and then you realise the bullies are just fucking arseholes.
Pretty much, yeah. But it's a shame it takes us, generally speaking, to get into our 30s before we kind of realise that.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, my wife would have a lot of thoughts on bullies and stuff like that. Like she's a social worker, so she would generally say, if I ever said to her that guy's an arsehole, she would say, you don't know what's going on for that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's wisdom in that.
So it's nearly that you would feel sympathy for the bully rather than actually calling him an arsehole.
Yeah.
And I think that's a better approach.
No, absolutely. Hard when some lad's taking the piss out of you for no reason other than your pink shoes or something.
I know,
but
yeah.
You're right though.
Yeah, but you can't think like that when you're a teenager. You're not going to probably think like that when you're in your 20s unless you've actually looked into it and studied it. But I think once you get into your 30s, you start to kind of listen up, and you be like, yeah, you know what, fuck you, like.
I think hopefully by the time you're into your 30s, you've achieved a certain amount, and I think with achievement comes a comfortableness in your own skin too.
Yeah,
Is
I
there an
wouldn't
element
say
of
I've
that?
achieved an awful lot though either. Like, I think I've just become more understanding of the way the world works. Like,
Well, you have a wife and a kids and a job, and you provided for your family and whatever else. And like, I don't know you particularly well. I don't really know you at all, essentially. But I'm sure there are other things outside of that you know, if you didn't have, you might consider them achievements.
yeah, fair enough.
Do you know that kind of way?
I get it. Yeah, I get it. But I do think like in your 30s you get some kind of perspective, which is probably why you've started this podcast in your 30s. Would you say that? So you're kind of now at the point where you're like, you know, I don't really need validation from everybody else to do this.
Yeah, I'm past validation, 100%.
Yeah.
And I would have needed endless amounts of that when I was in my 20s. Endless amounts of it. And even more when I was a teenager. I needed that validation. Big time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I always thought that I was kind of not lacking, but I don't know, different and weird. And it wasn't until I started, like, I kind of, there's a couple of figures that have been really instrumental in my life. Christopher Hitchens being one, because I was a staunch atheist from as far back as I can remember, and that made me a little different from everybody else. And it that was the pink shoes.
Yeah.
For me, was the staunch atheism. And it wasn't until I kind of stumbled across him, and he spoke so eloquently about it, and I was like, this lad's saying what I've been thinking for the last fucking 20 years, and it made me kind of relax in myself. And that was a big part of why I've created this platform. And you've had a touch of that. I think you mentioned it yourself about putting it, writing your blog and putting it out there, because if you're thinking it, some other fucker's thinking it. And there's great validation in that, and knowing that you're not the weirdo. Do you know that kind of way, knowing that there are like-minded people out there? Like, it's like
that. It's like that thing that Alan Watts says. You know, you've ever heard that speech? It's on YouTube. I've seen it about 1,000 times. But it's like, what are you going to do with your life? And it's basically the premise of it is do whatever you want, because if it's something that you like, somebody else is going to find worth in it, because somebody else will like it as well. So just do it. Do whatever you like, and let the money or whatever find its way afterwards.
Yeah, your man Campbell is something similar. What is it? Follow your bliss. Same principle. Like,
yeah.
Do whatever you want. Whatever it is that floats your boat, fucking go ahead and do it. And it's great that you started your blog, because that, and for me doing this as well, because people have contacted me, as I'm sure they will contact you if they haven't already, and say to you, you know, I've been fucking wanting to start a music blog or a hiking blog or a fucking cooking blog or whatever, and listening to you just maybe go, do you know what? Fuck it, like, why not? Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
I suppose I'm not there to inspire other people, but I just want to.
Yeah, but you do it by default. Do you know that kind of way? And if you're enjoying doing it, which you seem to be, that's the beauty of it. Like, but between writing the blog and cycling, who's going to look after all the bees, Darren?
Ah, the bees. I would never get onto the bees. The bees are coming back, baby.
Are they?
Yeah, I don't have any bees at the moment. About 4 or 5 years ago, well, not 4 or 5 years, probably about 3 years ago now, I had a bad summer and I lost all my bees. I could not keep my bees.
Right, I'm gonna have to cut across.
I was a bee loser, not a beekeeper.
The reason I'm going to cut across you there is because there's people here who've been enjoying the conversation. What are we in? An hour and 20 in. They've been enjoying it, and the next one, wait, whoa, what? Did this skip? Is this somebody else?
That's a curveball.
What the fuck are you talking about bees? Because when you reached out to me and said, listening to your podcast, fucking enjoying it, fair play to you, I immediately wrote back saying, you'd be a fucking great man to get on because of the whole bee thing. Because I didn't know you were into cycling, and I didn't know you were going to write a fucking blog or any of that stuff.
I didn't know that either at the time, that I was going to write any blog.
Well, there you go. But the bees, when did the bees. You're a beekeeper.
I am a certified, qualified beekeeper. That's right.
Oh, actually, genuinely qualified. Like, is there a qualification?
There is a qualification, yeah.
Okay.
Well, generally, to get bees, you would join a beekeeping association. So I joined the Loud Beekeepers Association. And they'll put you through an exam that you do in Gormanstown during the summer, where you have to go over and inspect the hive. And you
What
do
the
a written
fuck?
exam. Yeah, you have to know your shit. You can't just have random people going around with boxes of bees. Imagine the anarchy.
Why not?
Well, because they tend to swarm. That's why. They tend to fly away. And the whole idea of beekeeping is to stop big bunches of bees flying down the main street.
It is called beekeeping after all.
Yeah.
So how many bees? Like, you don't have bees at the minute.
I don't have bees at the minute.
More's the pity.
It's actually funny because the day after, or that evening, I actually I turned around to my wife and I said, "Oh yeah, Fran was basically saying he's going to talk about the bees," and she was like, "You should get back into the bees." And then the next day, I was driving to work, and I was like, "I will, I fucking will do it." And it was pretty much, I think you were at the start of your Lent thing where you're saying like basically just fucking do it and get on with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, I fucking will, because I still have all the gear. I'm still a qualified beekeeper. You don't lose your qualification.
Can't take that away from
me. So I was like, and I did enjoy it. Like, so I was like, yeah, fuck it, I will. And then, so I spent the day trying to ring this guy to see if I can get bees, and I couldn't get through to him. So I was like, oh,
your bee guy.
Yeah, my bee guy, my bee supplier. So I couldn't get through to him, and I was like, oh fuck, what am I going to do here now? So I was like, oh, I'll have to find somewhere to get them. And then by chance I was walking in town in Dundalk on like the Saturday or whatever. It was a few days later, and I bump into this guy who I haven't seen in years. He's a big tall guy, Martin O'Rourke, and he's like in his late 60s, I'd say. And I couldn't believe it because he's another beekeeper. And I was like, Martin, I can't believe I've met you. I'm looking for bees. And he was like, I know just the man. He goes,
so surreal.
He says, what you need to do. I was like, I know, hang on, no. I've tried to ring Paul. And he says, no, don't bother with Paul.
Paul's got shit bees.
Paul's got shit bees, essentially. He has shit bees. So he's like, don't bother with him. He goes, he's like, you've dodged the bullet there. Don't worry about it. He goes, there's a guy called Tom. Tom will put you in touch with this guy in Carrick Cross. It's not a publicly known fact, but he has 30 hives on the go. He's been doing it for years, but he went into hospital 2 weeks ago to get a stent put in his heart, and they severed one of his vessels or arteries or whatever, and he can't do it anymore because he's in recuperation. So he has to give up the bees.
So there's good bees going cheap.
So there's good bees going cheap. So he says, like, yeah, ring Tom. So yesterday I rang Tom, and Tom was like, I'm in a train station. I'll give you a shout tomorrow. So sitting down today, Tom sends me a message. Give this guy a shout. He's got bees. So the bees are coming back.
The bees are back, baby.
Yeah. Is it possible to take a break?
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I need to relieve myself.
Yeah, no worries at all. No at all. I'm going to continue talking.
Sure.
Because I want to do this. I want to video record this and kind of do it live. So, you know where you're going?
Yeah.
The back door, just literally inside the door. So you walk away.
Yeah.
Take as much time as you need.
Sorry about the break.
Not at all, no, you're grand. The bees, the bees, the bees, the bees. But, yeah, so this happened, when was it? It could have been, I can't remember who it was, but if this is the first time that you're listening to this podcast, hello. But I do intend to video record these live and upload them live. So you'll be able to actually watch the conversation that I'm having now, which you'll be listening to pre-recorded live. And if I was to be doing that, or when I will be doing that, if somebody needs to go to the bathroom, I'm going to need to basically fill the space, fill that kind of dead air. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do now while Darren goes off and relieves himself, as he puts it. But what I might do now is basically just throw in a bit of an ad for this podcast. So if you're in, what are we now? If you're an hour and a half in, if this is your first one or your second one, or if you've listened to them all, and you're enjoying these conversations, you can help to support them. And you can help by telling people about it. Taking a screenshot of the Facebook thing and sending it to a mate of yours and say, listen, check this out. You can share it, you can on Facebook, you can share it on Instagram, like it, comment on it, review to it, subscribe to it, send me an email at imoffthelead@gmail.com if you're enjoying it. Tell me what you like about it. Tell me what you don't like about it. Tell me what you'd like to see more of, see less of. Maybe I've inspired you to do something. Hopefully I've inspired a couple more people to get off their holes, basically, and take ownership of their lives and make a difference to themselves, because I keep kind of getting back to this mentality, or this philosophy, I suppose, or this thought process that you create your own reality. So take some ownership of the life that you live at the minute. If your life is in shit and you're blaming everybody around you, maybe ask yourself, how much of this is my fault? And don't depress yourself too much. Try and look forward as much as you can, and don't be looking back. Whatever is in the past has happened. There's no changing that. But you can change what you do today, and that will become your new past, if that makes sense. So today is tomorrow's yesterday. So you're in control of what happens tomorrow. So maybe make a bit of a plan. Maybe pick something that's happening in your life at the minute. Maybe there's something that's bugging you. Maybe you want to write a fucking blog. Maybe you've been writing a blog. Maybe you'd like to set up a podcast. It genuinely could not be fucking easier. If you're thinking of setting up a podcast, send me an email, imoffthelead@gmail.com. And a couple of people have actually asked me about it. And I've written back to them each individually. But what I must do is actually do up a template, like a fucking 10-step process of what it takes to record it and then to upload it to all the different platforms. It really, really couldn't be easier. Darren, I might actually ask, if we get time for it, or if it comes up, or if we think about it, what's involved in actually writing a blog. What does he write it on? How do you upload it? How do you share it to different sites? How are you going to get people to read it? And we're back in the room. So sorry about that if that got a little bit waffly. Darren, you met a man, and that man had some good bees.
That man has good bees.
And
there is good bees and bad bees.
And what's the difference? Like, what are you looking to avoid? Or what do you want?
Well, you're looking to avoid being stung.
Seriously, like?
Yeah, that's the essential. Well, you don't want them to swarm either. That's the main thing.
And what's swarming?
So swarming is essentially where they up sticks and fuck off.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Without getting into too much detail, the bees generally, when the queen gets weak, will decide to replace the queen. But the queen is the main one that lays all the eggs in the hive and produces more and more bees. So when she gets weak, or she starts slowing down laying eggs, they'll say, okay, we need a new queen to succeed the old one. And they'll force the queen into laying an egg for a new queen. And once that is capped and ready to go, once basically the egg is sealed up and ready to go, they'll say, right, half of you guys gather all your food and let's fuck off, and we'll go find somewhere else to live.
And that's swarming.
And leave that queen to raise this new hive, and that's swarming.
So when they swarm, you only lose half your bees.
Yeah, generally it's 50% losses. Yeah,
but you're left with a shitty queen.
No, you're left with a brand new queen. But
so the old queen flies off?
No, the old queen goes. Yeah, the old queen will leave
with half the hive.
And
has left like a queen larvae.
Has left like a queen larvae, yeah, in a specific kind of cell in the hive. So the cells are where basically they lay the eggs. So you ever see them like the hexagons, like you always see it on the jar of honey. There's hexagons.
Yeah.
So bees build everything in hexagons because it's the most efficient use of space.
Right.
So they lay these eggs into a hexagon, but in general, there's the different types of hexagons that they'll build. So they'll build a bigger one for a queen, because queen is the biggest bee in the hive. So they need to extend it. So they bring it out in what's called a queen cup.
Okay.
And they'll lay it in, get her to lay in there. So basically push her in and say, you there, you're not doing the business anymore. Lay an egg in here. We're going to get a new one so you can fuck off.
And when this guy who's going to get you some good bees.
He's going to get me some good bees, yeah.
What does he get you? Like a queen? Or like 10 bees? Or what?
Yeah, this is the thing. I could wait till May or June and get what's called a nucleus of bees, which is like a mini hive.
Okay.
So you don't want your bees to swarm. So you can if you monitor your hive properly, and you can monitor and see that they're building these little cups in the hive and they're preparing to rear a new queen, you can split that hive yourself and keep your old queen and keep the 50% of bees that would have flown away. Take that queen cup out of the hive, take a proportion of the bees as well, put them into a small hive, a small nuke, which is probably half the size, and that queen cup will then hatch a queen, and if the few bees that are in there with her will raise a new hive. So essentially you've got 2 hives for the price of one.
Right.
Your old queen.
Okay. And like when the hives...
Sorry, to get back to your point, what am I getting off this guy?
Yeah.
Sorry, completely just went.
No, you're grand.
But yeah, I could buy a nuke then. I could buy that nuke, which would be probably maybe 10 to 20,000 bees in the nuke.
Okay, what money price wise? What are you talking?
About €120, I think.
€120 for how many bees?
For about 20,000 bees.
So for €120, so if I wanted to fuck over somebody, I could for €120 buy 20,000 bees and chuck them in their letterbox.
Well, that's the thing.
Seems like serious value.
That's the thing about the association. They're not just going to sell it to you because...
Yeah, but I know you. You could get me 120,000 bees, could you?
That's with great power comes great responsibility. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to the beekeepers of this country.
And listen, before I forget, because this is something that I want to bring up, and you nail it there, like the beekeepers of this country. You don't strike me as your typical beekeeper. You might be the pigeonhole cyclist, but I mean, do you not have to be 80 before you're allowed own bees?
That is a good generalisation of beekeepers, that they're all retired. And you wouldn't be far off the point. Yeah, they are. They're all in their 60s.
And why is that?
I've gone to bee conferences. Like, this is the thing. I get obsessed with these things. I got obsessed with beekeeping.
Never do coke. Never do coke.
Yeah, that's another story. I happened.
I tried coke once for 10 years. But you see, that's like you'd be a great candidate for a fucking really good heroin addiction. That obsessiveness, like.
Yeah, sometimes I do worry that, like, you know, if I ever fell on a needle of heroin, because I won't actively put it into my arm because I'm so squeamish and I fucking hate that shit.
Yeah.
But if I fell on a needle, I could become addicted very quickly. So
bee conferences. There are bee conferences.
There are bee conferences.
Who knew?
Massive bee conference in Gormastown College every summer.
Right.
Which is where people do their preliminary exams and qualify to become beekeepers. There's another one up in just outside Belfast. There's another one up there. These are like 2-3 day events. We stayed the night and all that. I haven't stayed the night, but I've gone to the conferences and like where people just come in and they give lectures on beekeeping.
Yeah.
And how did I get talking about bee conferences?
No, just I don't know. Just it come up. It doesn't matter. That's the nature of these conversations.
Yeah.
They tend to go all over
I just
the
don't
place.
want to ramble. You know,
You're grand. You're not rambling at all. But on beekeeping, so you're going to buy. What did you say for 120 quid? It'll get you 20,000 bees.
You can buy a nuke. And generally they do them with beginner courses. You'd say you do your beginner course. So there'll be people up in RD now with the Loud Beekeepers Association doing their course, and they'll go probably once a week or once every 2 weeks or something, and they'll learn about bees and they'll learn about beekeeping. And then at the end of that course, they'll be given a nuke of bees to bring home to rear as their own, I suppose. And they'll probably pay €120. But that you won't get those because swarming season isn't until May or June, really. So I don't want to wait till May or June to get a shitty 20,000 bees because I've been there, I've done it, I've had a full hive. I don't need a beginner kit.
Yes.
I want honey this year. So if you get it like one of those, you'll get honey, but you won't get much this year because the hive is not at its full strength coming into the summer.
Okay. Yes, of course.
Yeah. So
it's not hitting the summer running. Basically.
So that's why I went on the hunt for a hive. I want a hive.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'll probably pay more. Maybe I won't pay more because this guy needs to get rid of him. He needs to sell, and I want to buy.
And right, so just getting on to what we're talking about here, these nukes are these things that you'd put in the boot of your car, or do you need a forklift to lift them up? Like,
no,
what are you talking
they're
about?
probably about 1.5 feet long by about half a foot wide.
And there's 20,000 bees in it, or 20,000 bee eggs or larvae,
about
or what?
16,000 bees. There'll be bee larvae in there as well. and a queen.
And are they in the fridge? Are they kind of semi-hibernated or what? Like,
No, they just keep them.
they're in there
outside.
buzzing away like fuck, or...
Yeah. So when you transport bees, you have to transport them 3 miles at a time. So,
3 miles at a time.
So if the guy who's selling you bees is 3 miles within your 3 mile radius, you have to move that hive outside 3 mile radius before you can bring it to your house. Because, I don't know, they have, not that they have memory, but they've like a collective memory of like landmarks and stuff like that. So they can tell, okay, this is my locality, I know how to get back to my hive. So if you move it within the 3 miles, the bees will become disorientated, won't know how to, and then if you move a hive in your back garden, say for example,
Yeah.
and you move it 10 foot overnight, and then you open it up and say, off you go, they'll fly out and they'll come back and they'll congregate back at the original spot
Where the beehive was. Not where the beehive now is. Clearly 10 foot to one side.
So when you get these nukes, you seal them up, you put them in the back of your car, you bring them home, provided you're 3 miles away from where you got it. And then you'll open it up the next day, and they'll go out and they'll orientate themselves around the new area within a 3 mile radius.
Okay, so sorry, now I'm with you. So you go to Cork and you pick up one of these nukes.
Yeah, so say, like, I'm going to get one from Carrick Cross, I'm fine. But if you got one from down the road, you couldn't just move it to your house.
Okay, sorry. In my ignorance, I thought that you could only drive down the road 3 miles and you had to fucking stop over or something. Drive 3 miles the next day. I was like, what the fuck?
No, you can move them outside a 3 mile radius, but you have to... if you're moving within 3 miles, you have to move them out of the 3 mile radius.
Okay, okay, right. Let me get my head around this. I'm going to buy bees off you. You live a mile down the road from me.
Yes.
So you drive the mile to my house, you collect the hive of bees, and then you can't go back to your house, or to my house, say, because they'll just find their way home. So you have to do what?
You would ideally find a location, or what you would do is, when they're ready to swarm, take the nuke and put the nuke in your house straight away.
Right.
Because that's a new basic hive or whatever. Because that's an unhatched queen. And eventually it'll sort itself out.
Okay. There's a lot of talk these days about, there being no more bees. Generally speaking, like, we're losing our pollinators. It's to do with our Wi-Fi and our fucking 4G networks. And you hear a lot of all this stuff. Is like, you that's a beekeeper, like, is there anything in that or not? Or is that wild bees? Is that a different thing? Are like the bees that you have, are they native to Ireland? Are they?
Yeah, the ones I had before were a native black bee to Ireland, which is Apis mellifera, which is basically the Irish black bee.
Right.
Well, not the Irish black bee. It's the European black bee, I suppose. Kind of native to Northern Europe. They're generally more acclimatized to cooler climates and stuff like that.
Right.
But there is other different strains. Like there's like an Italian bee. There's like a Buckfast bee, which is reared by the monks in Buckfast Abbey.
Fuck off.
Yeah, there is actually bee breeders who will breed out certain characteristics and traits from bees. And basically, like, so if they have a hive that keeps swarming all the time, they won't breed that hive. They'll just get rid of it.
Yes. So
they'll breed different characteristics, like they don't swarm and stuff like that. So the guys in Buckfast Abbey would have reared these bees. Sorry, am I getting off the point again?
No. Go on ahead.
You were saying about bees generally being in trouble. There isn't a lot of wild bees, especially in this country.
Right.
And generally, I think the thinking is that there is no wild bees in the country.
Yeah, because I wouldn't know a bee if I
now,
saw one.
I'm talking about honeybees. I'm not talking about bumblebees and the likes of that.
Right.
The main reason why there's no wild bees in this country is because some English prick brought his hive over on holidays to his summer house in the west of Ireland, and his hive was infested with what's called Varroa destructor.
Varroa destructor?
Yeah, which is a mite.
Okay.
Parasite that grows on the bee. Well, it doesn't grow on the bees. It leeches off the bees and it grows in the hives and it eats their wings and it kills them. So, this prick came over and brought his hive over and infected the whole country.
And we know there's a specific time and place that this actually happened, is it? Like,
yeah, they can trace it back, yeah.
And when was this in, 1472 or, 6 weeks ago or what?
It was sometime, I think, in the 90s or late 90s. I'm not too sure.
Right.
The exact dates. or who he was.
So
But if I find him,
So you're getting this guy that you got the number of today.
Yeah.
When you say he has bees, he has what, a hive or
so
several
that's the guy.
hives or
He's
what?
the guy with 30 hives who can't look after them anymore.
Oh, sorry. Okay, perfect.
So
where do you put 30 hives? Like,
I don't want 30. I just want one.
okay, now in my mind's eye, when I think of like a beehive that a beekeeper would have, I'm thinking about something the size of an under-counter fridge. Thereabouts.
Yeah, you wouldn't be too far off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it kind of typically white, kind of like with a little pitched roof on it. And
You're thinking all the Americans. You're watching too much telly, Fran.
I must be. But like what?
Well, you can buy hives like that, and that's fine. Like, you can get kind of more decorative stuff and like that. There's certain types of hives. There's one called commercial. There's one national. Generally, all the beekeepers in Ireland use a national, which is basically like a wooden box, like a crate. So you'd start off with what's called a brood box, which is where the queen lays all the eggs.
Okay.
And then you would put a guard up on top of that, like a sheet that is wide enough for a worker bee to get up, but not wide enough for the queen to get up. So the queen can't lay eggs into your honey. So when you're eating your spoonful of honey, you're not eating a load of fucking bee eggs. And then you have what's called your supers on top of them. So you have your brood box, your queen excluder, and then your supers. And your supers are where you get all your honey for harvesting. And then you can stack up your supers. The accordance is the crop is getting better and better. You'd stack up. So you could have a hive that's like 6 or 7 foot high, depending on the summer. Like, you can get pretty high. Like, generally in different areas, like if you have a lot of rape seed being grown or whatever you call it.
That's the yellow fields, basically.
Yeah. There's a funny story. I was actually at a conference before, and one of the old guys turned around to a woman beekeeper from down the country.
There's women beekeepers?
Yeah, there is. And he turned around to her, and straight up he goes to her, "How is your area for rape?"
Only at a bee conference. Only at a bee
joke.
conference.
It's a bee
joke. Oh my god.
But rapeseed, they love that shit. They love it.
Well, for obvious reasons. It's a fucking field of flowers, essentially.
Yeah. So you tend to get a lot of honey very early in the year from rape.
Right, and presumably then you would position your hive somewhere where you knew there was going to be
any of the guys who really want to sell their honey would generally position their hives near rape fields.
Okay, now getting on to selling your honey, can you have bees in like a warehouse and have sugar water sprayed onto the floor? Do you know that kind of way, like a factory farm bees?
No.
Is that like
there is like basically big commercial beekeepers like in the US and stuff like that.
Yeah, so like
hundreds of hives.
Your jars of honey that like you can go out and buy. Like, honey is commercially available. Do you know that kind of way? So where does that honey come from? It's
Argentina.
Not from. Okay.
Generally comes from Argentina.
And is that because Argentina has 100,000 beekeepers, or it's because they have like super hives, or what is it?
Yeah, they probably have a lot of beekeepers. I don't know, but it generally does come from Argentina. It's imported from Argentina, and you get people who say like, "Oh, I don't like honey. It tastes shit." Like, but it's because it's this basically honey harvested. Like, it's outdoors. Like, bees don't. You can't just put them in a factory. It all comes from plants, basically. Like, it's all nectar converted, taken in, regurgitated, cooled down, all the moisture taken out of it, and basically stored in a hive to kind of mature. In Argentina, I don't know. They maybe have loads of beekeepers or whatever. They'd have big commercial beekeepers, but they would harvest in bulk, stick it in a big vat of stuff, and send it over to Boyne Valley Honey and Drogheda or whatever.
Yeah.
And they would basically, throw it into jars and sell it. But people would generally say they don't like it. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like honey. It's too whatever. It's a rotten taste off it." But that honey that you're tasting, that you're buying off the shelf in Dunnes Stores or Tesco, has been heat treated not to crystallize. So essentially, it's burnt honey.
It's been pasteurized as well. Is honey pasteurized, or is that?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't need it.
Okay.
It gets heat treated so it doesn't crystallize, so it doesn't go hard. So if you leave a jar of honey in a press for a while, you'll see it'll crystallize.
Yeah,
and
yeah, I've
you'll
had
see
that.
little kind of bits in it, and like, if you heat it up again, they'll go away. But if you heat up honey and that happens, like, you can heat it to a point where it won't do that. And generally, those jars of honey that are on the shelves are heated up too much. They're burnt to the point that they won't go back to that crystallized state. So essentially, you're getting burnt honey, which tastes not great.
Yeah, because there is a burnty taste of honey,
Yeah,
I think, is there?
You're
of
a
the
very sensitive palate, Fran.
just I don't. I'm a texture man because I've practically no sense of taste.
If you want to know what real honey tastes like, go into the shop in a shopping centre next to Nature, and there's a guy, I think his name's Durkin from Bormeen, and he sells his honey in there. And once you taste proper honey from
Well, I'm one step ahead of you because you probably know him, Seamus Kearns.
I don't know.
There's a lad
I've been
out
out of the beast circle for a while.
He's the new kid on the block. Yeah, there's a guy called Seamus Kearns. He's out Rakenny direction, and his son Mark might have been in your year. But
Right.
anyway, Seamus Kearns is a beekeeper out in Rakenny, and he sells it in the shop in Wilkinson. So I actually do be one of the few people who do buy actual genuine
Proper
honey,
honey.
like proper
Yeah.
honey, like. Because I'm a big advocate of kind of supporting the things that you like to
And when
see
you
more
taste
of,
it,
and
It's far lighter.
it's far different. It's just
Yeah,
it's a
it's a
different animal altogether.
Different gravy, as it's
Like. Different gravy.
But
That's the
it
bee
is
term.
far nicer. Like, it's so much nicer. Like,
And with your hive that you're hoping to get, how many bees is going to be in this thing?
probably about 60,000.
Okay, and what like kg or pounds or of honey are you looking to get, or because you'll be up and running when you get this?
I probably hope to get about £30 a year.
Okay,
of honey.
15 kilos. Fuck. Okay.
Yeah, I've got that before a few times. See, my problem when I started was, I got this notion in my head. I could have 20 hives, I could have 30 hives, I could be beekeeper full time. I never really saw it as kind of a hobby. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. But
That wouldn't be your obsessiveness
No.
coming into play, would it?
yeah, it is again. But now it's like, I'm more mature. I can kind of say what I would hope I would say. Like, I just want one. I can only really afford to have one because of the kids in the house and stuff like that. You can't have like 20 fucking beehives out the back garden and a 2-year-old running around.
That was another thing I was going to say. Like, will this be in your back garden?
Yes.
And like, have you got an 18-acre back garden or what? Like,
I don't. No, I don't. I've probably a back garden similar to yourself in size. I don't know. I'm never good at acres and size and all that kind of stuff.
a good sized lawn, basically. Do you know what I mean?
A good sized lawn.
A tennis court sized lawn.
yeah.
Thereabouts.
Yeah, I could put it inside. But the thing with bees, if you have one hive, generally bees, when they come out, they don't come out and go fucking everywhere. And they can go like in a big swarm. And we're here. We're coming to get you. They will generally come out and you'll see them spiral and they'll go 15, 20 foot up in the air, and then they'll fly off to wherever there's an abundance of nectar.
Yeah, meadow or a rape field or whatever.
Yeah, so they'll fly off and they'll find that. And
So
then,
if I called up to your house, let's say, and your 2-year-old was having a birthday party and my 3-year-old arrived, would I know that you had bees there? If I couldn't see the beehive, say, would there be bees around? Do you know? Like, do your neighbours know you keep bees if you had the beehive out of sight?
no, I wouldn't tell them. Because
But
if you tell them, they instantly
They'll see
they
them.
go, I don't want bees. I don't want. What they think is, I don't want bees coming in attacking me in my back garden.
Yeah?
Now that could happen if we got a swarm, but the idea is not to get them to swarm. But it's very rare. Like, and even when they swarm, they're not aggressive, because generally they only attack when there's something to defend, and when they're swarming, they don't have a home to defend. They're looking
Yes.
for a new home. So in theory, you could stand inside a swarm of bees and not be stung.
Yes.
Like,
Provided they're not
have you ever
defending
seen,
something.
Yeah, have you ever seen the guys who cover themselves in bees?
Yeah,
like
like
a record.
a foot thick of bees
Yeah.
on them. Like, yeah.
Yeah, generally they put like a queen pheromone on them, and the bees just come.
They
around
feel
them.
safe.
Yeah, so they won't attack. So, yeah, sorry.
No, you're grand. So once you're going to go and get this beehive, tomorrow or next week or whenever, you're
Yeah.
going to drop it back in your house. They'll scout around a 3-mile radius and they'll come back and everything's going grand.
Yeah.
Day to day, like, what's the kind of, like, what's entailed in beekeeping aside from, passing the test and getting your hands on some fucking good quality bees?
Yeah, I suppose. Well, you don't. That's the thing. They really look after themselves.
Okay.
Like, it's a very low maintenance hobby, like, which is probably why it suits retired people and people in their 80s, because like at the height of the season you need to check it once a week, but that's the most, like,
Once a week?
yeah. In the winter you could check it once a month. You don't even have to.
And what are you even looking for? Like, what does a check entail?
You're checking basically that your queen is still there, your queen is still laying eggs, so you check for small little tiny white dots in the cells.
And sorry, but presumably the queen is buried in the middle of this hive thing.
Yeah.
And how do you, like, is there a camera, or do you lift the lid off, or?
Yeah, you have your bee suit, and you go out with your bee suit, and you have your full, like, fencing mask kind of thing.
Yeah, the whole lot, yeah.
And you go out in your spacesuit, and you open up the hive, and then, so inside the hive you have frames. There are different kind of slats, basically, where you can basically lift them up and view the bees. They're like a panel.
Yeah, kind of vaguely familiar with that from TV.
If you ever Google it, you'll see like what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I'm looking for the queen in there, so I'll pick it up and I'll look on site. Now, when you get a new queen, they're generally marked. And when I say by marked,
died by the guy who sold it to you, or
they have there's a little pen you can buy. It's like a little kind of paint pen, and the queen has like a bigger back on her, and you can easily, if you can trap her in like they call this thing a crown of thorns, which is basically like a mesh, so you can push it down on her so you won't move, and then you put a dot on her back. Yeah, basically tie her down. Put a dot on her back.
Crown of thorns, pin her down.
Yeah.
Get out your pen.
Yeah, dot on her back, a little bit of kind of Tipex or luminous paint or something that you can actually see. So then when you open up the hive the next time, you see this little a luminous pink or white dot running around the hive, and you go, boom, there's my queen. And
aside from that dot that you put them on, are they more or less indistinguishable from the rest of them?
Oh yeah, they're all the same colour, and there's 60,000 of them. It's
Fuck.
impossible.
Like, again, this is just my...
I've been standing over a hive for nearly 30-40 minutes looking for a queen, because if you don't have a queen, you're fucked, basically. You have to start making plans to actually replace her.
And what does that entail? So you go looking, you can't find it, you say to yourself, oh fuck, she's gone.
Yeah, she's gone. Has she left behind the queen cell? So has she left behind a queen to be reared?
And how do you even know that? You look for a bigger hexagon piece than most?
Essentially, yeah. You look for like what's called a queen cup, or queen cup, essentially, yeah. And you'll see if that's there. If that's there and you can't find her, well, don't really worry, but keep looking for her. Because if they haven't swarmed, and they're
hanging around for something.
Yeah, if they haven't swarmed, the chances are she's still in there somewhere.
Right.
So keep looking. So you're looking basically for eggs. You're looking for queen cells. You're looking for your queen, and you're generally looking to see the health of the hive. Like, is there like any kind of diseased looking bees in there? Yeah.
And when you're going out in your big fucking bee suit thing, and am I right in saying like you've the kind of like a net all the way around your head, like that's the stereotypical thing that I'm thinking of. That's what you have.
That's it.
And your neighbours don't know you have bees.
Yeah, they can't see me. I've got big trees around the house.
Okay. So, in relation to passing the test, though, like, I mean, if you're only checking it once a week, once a month in the winter, you know, they're fucking, your queen has been marked, you know, from what you've said, there doesn't seem to be that much in it. Is the exam hard to pass, or are you only barely scratching the surface of what you need to know to be even able to start, or what? Like,
the exam isn't too hard to pass. You can do a lot of anatomy in it. Like, it's like reading biology.
Cool.
So you learn about the parts of the bee and all that kind of stuff. But then you learn about the bee's life cycle, and you need to know the life cycle essentially so you know when to expect the bees to swarm, because you need to know the amount of days that it will take for a queen to hatch. And or to seal up the hive. Like, they basically, when they lay an egg, it turns into a larva turns into a whatever you call it, a pupa, or is it?
Yeah, pupa, I think.
Yeah, and then they so the lady egg turns into a larva. They seal the cell.
Yeah,
the larva turns into a pupa, turns into a bee, and then comes out. But when they seal that cell, that's when they'll swarm.
Right.
So you need to know your days that's going to happen. So that's why you check every week, because it's 7.5 days before they seal a queen cell.
Right.
So you know if I can catch this before the 7.5 days before they seal that,
Yeah.
then I have a good chance of stopping them from swarming.
And that's the name of the game, basically. And that's why it's called beekeeping.
Beekeeping, yeah, exactly, yeah. You're trying to keep them in one place and stop them from swarming. So yeah, the exam is kind of, you do an exam, and then you do a practical test where somebody comes over to you and opens up a hive and says, can you point out this to me and that to me? Basically, if you suspected your hive had X disease, what would you be looking for, kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, it's like a driver's license for bees. Like, you need to know you do need to know what you're looking at. Now, there is stuff you can go higher than that. Like, I've got like a preliminary certificate. You can go and you become a bee master, they call it. I swear to God, you can do like bee breeding courses and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
You can go. I don't know. You can actually get a degree in it, I think, over in the UK.
And why is it such an old person's thing? Because like I'm fascinated. I love the idea of having a hive. And again, if I'm thinking it and you're fucking doing it, then why isn't there someone somewhere? Because like you're the not only are you the only person that I know that does it. I've never spoken to anybody else who knew somebody who did it. Do you know that kind of way? Like, I'll say to someone, like, you've come up a couple of times over the years, like, oh yeah, fucking mate, like, we'd be talking about people's odd hobbies or something, and I'd say, oh yeah, a mate of mine actually fucking keeps bees. No fucking way is the answer that you get. Especially when they tell them that you're fucking my age. Like, what are you, fucking mid-30s, like?
Yeah, 35, yeah.
And it's like the lads, that you'd know a lot of beekeepers, or would you? The older guys.
Yeah, I know all the old guys, yeah.
Right, so if the average beekeeper is 80, say, it's what, 60, 70, 60?
Guys who are retired and they're looking for something to do with their time.
But that's what I was just going to ask you.
Strenuous, so they say, oh look, you know what, maybe I'll take up beekeeping.
Because that's what I was going to ask. The guys that are in their 60s and 70s who are beekeepers, are they beekeepers 40 years, which meant they started when they were 20 or 30? But they're not. You get into it when you're older, do you?
There is a few, but generally it's a retired person's hobby.
So you'll be like the fucking...
the way I got into it was my wife's father retired, and he took up the bees.
Right.
So, but he had only started that just before we met. So then when I met him, he was like, oh, I'm a beekeeper. And like yourself, I was like, no way. This is pretty cool. And he brought me outside, put me in the spacesuit, and he's like, "Oh, check this out." And I was like, "Yeah, this is actually pretty cool. That's something I'm doing." So then I got into it that way. Like, but yeah, everybody is in there. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is why they're so old. Like,
it's a strange one, isn't it?
I've gone like those conferences I've gone to. I've easily been the youngest person at the whole conference
by a mile, like.
By a mile.
And there is the odd woman, as you mentioned.
There is the odd woman.
Because again, that's just this misogynist coming out of me. But like, what's the ratio? Is it literally like 100 to 1, or is it 1,000 to 1?
1,000 to 1.
Really? Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit like.
No, but I mean, you've been to the conferences. I mean, if there's only one person there and there's hundreds of men,
not
like
that many. There's a lot of old men.
But it's gas though, because when you say beekeeper, and like in my mind's eye. Like, you
think of an old man.
Well, it's an old man, absolutely. It's not even a young man or man in general. It's an old man.
Yeah, and I suppose that's probably like when I was doing it, I kind of like, why am I doing this? I have got years left in me.
But the cool thing about that, though, you saying that you've got years left in you, is in 30 years, when you're still a relatively young beekeeper in beekeeping land, you'll have fucking 30 years experience.
True.
Like, is there a beekeeper in Ireland that has 30 years experience?
There would be, yeah. There's a guy up outside Dunleer called imoffthelead. He's like the king of the bees.
What age is he, though?
He's in his 40s, I'd say.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. He is bee royalty in this country.
What's his name again?
Owen McGillicuddy.
Owen McGillicuddy. And has he like a Facebook page or a website or...
he probably does have a website or a Facebook page. I don't know. He's a very kind of like of the earth kind of man. His beard, he's thin, wears woolly jumpers.
Yeah, of course, like, an old soul.
Yeah.
But born 40.
But his dad is like Michal McGillicuddy, who was like basically like he's like the god of beekeepers in the country.
But that's so cool, like.
And he's like now the god. He's becoming the god.
Yeah.
But he is like the don. And he's gone over to London and won like the London Honey Show, which is like the biggest honey show in the world.
No way.
in the whole wide world. Yeah.
That is so fucking cool, though.
Yeah.
And again, the beauty of having people like yourself on there, like you're obviously you're in the cycling loop, you're now in the fucking blogging loop, and you're obviously in the B loop. But there's people listening to this going, "Fucking what? Like this is fucking mad in a good way, like, you know."
Like this guy is world renowned as a beekeeper.
Yeah, and no one would ever have heard of him. Not if you live to be a million years, unless you stumbled across this podcast for whatever reason. Like,
yeah,
world class. Like,
oh, he is world class.
And where is he based?
In Dunleer.
Down the fucking road.
Down the road, yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me the amount of like world class athletes or beekeepers or, you know, physicists or poets or whatever. They're all, you know, down the road. Like when I started my business, I had to buy kind of punnets for the packaging. There's a crowd in Ballycool and Blanche that do that. I had to get the compost. I get that delivered from Bord na Mona. I had to get this. I had to get that. I had to get all these different things. And there's all these businesses just around the corner from you. You can. It's mad. Couple that with the fucking internet, you can do anything you want to do. Like,
yeah,
like it's because people just need their eyes open to what's on their doorstep. Really,
yeah. You'd be surprised what's around you.
Like it's mad, and I've a huge problem with the media, and I don't listen to the news. I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the radio. I don't buy newspapers. I find all of that just fucking nonsense. And one of the upsides of that is it gives you the opportunity to find out about actual things that are in your locality and could affect your actual life. Do you
yeah,
like
I kind of agree with you in a way. I don't mind the news. I like the news.
Look, some people love it, like.
But
at the
same time,
what's going on?
At the same time, I think there's a lot of news that's been put out there that really doesn't really affect me. And like, there's a lot of stuff that people are getting annoyed about and kind of angry about, but it doesn't really affect them. Like, I don't need to know that. Like, I don't really need to know about Donald Trump, do I?
Not on the hour every hour.
No, but like
I know who Donald Trump is.
But like,
do you know what I mean?
But maybe it's because the world's getting smaller and media's everywhere. But like, there's stuff that really doesn't concern me, but it's been pushed out all the time. And I think there's a kind of like, people like, I don't know, like there would have been killings in foreign places before, but you would have never heard of it because it's not pumped into. They're not constantly looking for news everywhere.
Yeah, no, of course.
Like the news, I think there was a time when the news was maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then they're like, okay, yeah, off to the weather. Now it's a full hour. So they're constantly looking for stories.
But it's a full hour every hour.
Yeah.
Do you know, kind of way?
Like, I don't know. People are getting outraged, like on the likes of Twitter again. Like people get outraged at stuff that really doesn't concern them, to be honest. And I think there's a real problem with that.
No, big time. You're tuning into the misery of 7 billion people. That's how I feel.
Twitter is the biggest argument in the world.
I am on it. I follow a couple of people on it, but I don't really get into. See, that's a funny one. Like, I follow half a dozen different people on Twitter, but I don't see this thing that you're talking about. Now, I'm not saying it's not there because it's well renowned that Twitter is just the world's biggest argument. But why am I missing all that? Is it because of the people I follow?
Maybe it's the people you follow. Like maybe like I follow a lot of cycling and stuff like that. So you see like guys getting popped for doping and stuff like that, and then people are like, "Oh no, you're talking shit," basically. And then people get so angry and like trying to defend their points of view and stuff like that.
Yeah,
maybe
of course.
It's me. Maybe I gravitate toward that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but I've tried to move away from it. I try not to get engaged in arguments and stuff like that.
What do you like with social media in general?
I've tried to quit, but most cycling events are through Facebook and stuff like that. So
yeah, of course.
I say, "Oh no, I'll stay on for that," but I could probably find out about it some other way. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Because you're going to jumping into the social media world with the blog. Like.
I am, yeah. And to be honest, the first thing I did when I launched it is I set up a Facebook page.
Yes.
I don't mind social media. Like, I don't really know. I think it will eventually be abused and stuff like that. It probably is being abused now. But like,
I look like anything.
It takes time to kind of for these things to kind of settle down and like, I don't know, find their way. I suppose people start. Like, I'll make an example. Bebo. You remember Bebo?
I do.
Yeah. Well, Bebo got to the point where people were just fucking filling it with shit.
Yeah.
Like absolute crap. I remember my sister's Bebo account and it was just unreadable. And then it just died off and then it gets replaced by something that's a bit cleaner. Like Facebook gets filled with crap and then Twitter comes along and Twitter's a bit cleaner. And then Twitter gets filled with crap and then Instagram comes along and that's a little bit cleaner. So it's all kind of nearly evolving into something that's a bit cleaner and less crap.
Do you know what? I think I have a feeling that what it will evolve into is people like me and you, I think, might be ahead of the curve there. We kind of create our own platform. So presumably your blog will be on your website. You'll have like a Facebook page, Twitter account. Like it'll be on kind of everything and nothing.
Yeah.
But it'll be yours.
Well, Facebook and Twitter and all that, for me, is basically promotion.
Yes.
Because that's where people are looking. So
yes, it's where people
there's
are.
no point in me setting up a website and, well, how do I tell people about it?
Yeah,
How
you
would
get
tell
one
people?
view
I don't
a
stick
month.
it in the
like.
yellow pages anymore. Like, or stick it in the red book, you know?
Yeah. But I think we're moving towards exactly that. And the way people will find out about it is people will WhatsApp their mate the link to your website.
Yeah.
And that link will be saved. I think we'll revert back to this idea of sharing things amongst ourselves. Like back in the day when before you could like download music or before there was digital music, the way you found out about new bands was a mate of yours lent you the CD. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
And in a way, I think people will send you the email address or the website address or whatever it is. Like I'd like to think that we're moving back to like a hyper personalized society in a way, because at the minute it's too bland and broad and meh.
Yeah, you look on Facebook now, there's nothing there personal anymore.
No.
Like, you know, like back when it started, it was kind of like people would put up a status saying, just went out for a jog today, felt amazing, or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that, talking about themselves.
Yes.
Now they're just sending a link to a YouTube video of some lad in America running.
Yeah, absolutely.
Share,
yeah.
oh, I saw this, I like that, yeah. And then everybody else can see what I likes. Nobody's actually putting up any status. It's just very few pictures even go up on there anymore.
Yeah, you'll put up an inspirational quote or a fucking, a funny picture or something like that.
I don't need to know everything you like. You know that kind of way?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
You know, you don't go into your press at home and go, you know, I like noodles. And then ring up 10 of your mates, you know, I like noodles.
Yeah.
Which ones are the cocoa ones? Yeah, cocoa noodles, they're nice, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But no, I think, and it's a good thing, we're moving away from kind of mass media stuff and more towards the likes of this. And I think that's why podcasting is exploding. And would you do a podcast? Would you record it? Would you read the blog, basically, and upload the audio?
No, I wouldn't. I think for the blog, I think it's best put down in words. I don't think it would come across better in audio. I think there is a place. I actually think, and I like your idea of what you're doing now, talking to normal people. I actually think there's a place for maybe tagging onto the blog conversations with people. So say conversation with someone who's taken up darts for the first time and going around the country playing in darts tournaments. Like, what is that like?
Yeah.
Or somebody who's training for a marathon, or so, like, basically obscure sports, and somebody to come in and say to you, you know, hey, what is this all about? Like I'm just done with cycling, probably not explained it greatly. I think you would probably have a better way of pulling that information out of people, but I think there's a place for that kind of thing, and a place for like that normal kind of experience and getting that kind of basic experience out of people.
Big time. You know Pat O'Reilly, don't you?
Yeah.
Patter's been on before, and Patter has gotten into running recently. So I think he saw me going out running all the time, and he kind of said to himself, you know, he's getting that little bit older, and he's got kids, and he wants to be fucking fit and healthy playing with them in, 10 and 20 years' time or whatever else.
And in saying that, and what you've just said there, he wants to be fit and healthy in 10 years' time, he wants to be playing with his kids. That's the way other people are thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's what people want to nearly hear when they're running. People don't want to hear, okay, yeah, I'm trying to get my times under 20 minutes.
Yes.
Well, some people maybe.
Of course.
No, and that's no slight on yourself, Fran. I know you're saying that, but like, that's what people, I think, want to hear. They want to hear that somebody else is going, do you know what, Jesus, I have to fucking kick the fags and get out running and get fit and actually keep myself alive.
Big time.
And yeah, like, I think Patter would be a great candidate to actually write something like that as well.
Well, Patter sent me a text message only, was it yesterday, the day before, to say, because I'll jump back to the start for just to fill people in. Patter basically started running. Had never run ever. Like the last time he ran was with me, maybe 15 years ago. We ran to the shop and he puked his guts up everywhere, and that was him done with running. I'm not a runner, Frano. 15 years later, for whatever reason, he just started. He went out the door for 10 minutes in one direction and ran back and started doing it every day. And before he knew it, he was running 5k every day. And only the day before yesterday, I think, ran out the door and for whatever reason didn't go home. I think he did his usual 5k loop, but when he got back around to the house, he was like, fuck it, and went round again and ran 10k. And he texted me because he was fucking delighted with himself, as he should be. And I was like, Patter, what I said to him was, if you don't want to run the Dublin City Marathon in October, then don't run it. But don't cod yourself that you have the excuse that you couldn't run it if you wanted to run it. And I reckon the cunt is going to actually fucking enter it and do it. And that'd be a great podcast. To get him on tomorrow and say, I fucking booked it. I fucking don't know really what I'm at. It's all a bit daunting. I'm shitting myself and it's 8 months away. But for people to hear that and then to catch up with them in 6 months' time and go, or in 3 months' time and go, how's the training going? Yeah, well, I did fucking 18k there the other day and I have to run 30k before I run the marathon, because obviously the marathon will be the first day that he runs the 42k.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of thinking about yourself at your Christmas party this year. What will you be able to tell people that you've done? Do you know that kind of way? Like, what will 2018 have been for you? Like, when you're come 2025 and somebody goes, you know, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of 2018? Like, what will you be able to say, or will you just go, oh, I don't know, you know, it was 2 years after I got married.
It snowed.
It snowed. Maybe you'll remember the snow of 2018. Whoop-de fucking do. Like, you remember a weather event. But maybe it's the first year you ran a marathon. Maybe it's the first year you remember it starting your blog.
I will.
Do you know that kind of way?
Of course, yeah. And it's about kind of doing stuff and just making memories, more or less.
Big time, yeah.
And being able to turn back to people and say, okay, oh yeah, remember we did that? Remember that? And like, that's the conversation is basically recalling memories. And you're talking to people and say, oh yeah, you did that once, didn't you? You ran a marathon once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, yeah. How did that go for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad.
But there's something, what is it about our society that we can't, like, I couldn't have rang you, now maybe I could have, but I wouldn't have rang you and said, Darren, I haven't spoken to you in a year and a half and we barely know each other, but do you want to come out to my house and we'll sit down and have a fucking couple of hour conversation? Like, you know that kind of way, when you call it a podcast. When you asked
me first, I said no.
yeah, as a lot of people do. I've gotten far more no's than yeses.
Yeah. But yeah, it would have been weird. If like, what are you ringing me for, Fran?
It would have been weird, wouldn't it? But what is that like? Like, it would have been weird for me to ask, and it would have been weird for you to be asked. But call it a podcast. Say you're going to record it and upload it for the world to listen to, and all of a sudden it becomes more normal. Like, what is that? Like, it's weird, isn't it? Yeah. It's something then. And for some reason it's nothing otherwise. It's a strange one, like.
Yeah. I don't know. You kind of lost me there.
I have a tendency to do that. I really do. But listen, man, it's been an absolute fucking pleasure having you out. Before I forget, what is the link to your blog, or what would people find it under, or how did they get to it? What's the Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter? Have you got all that sorted, or what? Like,
I have, yeah. After many hours of trying to link a domain name to a WordPress website, I can safely say now that you can go on your internet machine and type in www.uptheroad.ie or just uptheroad.ie.
Uptheroad.ie.
I don't know why we keep continuing with this www. Every website has www. Why do we have to keep it persistent with that?
But uptheroad.ie, that'll get to the website. What about presumably
there is a Facebook page.
Up
it's
the
just
road.
Up the Road. It's like facebook.com/up the road, because some other prick has taken up the road.
Motherfucker. Have you an email address? A dedicated email address yet? Or?
No, there is a contact
section
on the page, so if you wanted to get in touch, and there's a comment section, so if you think something's good, let me know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A bit of feedback
if you don't
goes
think
a long
it's
way.
Good,
shut the fuck up.
Don't tell somebody else.
I think I mentioned this in the break. I was going to ask you, I'm glad I remembered. If somebody out there is thinking about writing a blog, or maybe they've written it on pen and paper, say, like, how do you get that online? Like, you set up a WordPress account? Do you just go onto WordPress and select blog, or what do you do? Like,
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just open a WordPress. You don't have to do WordPress. There's plenty of other free ones out there.
And free ones, what's the umbrella term?
Just type in blog sites, like
blog
sites.
Hosting, okay.
Blog hosting.
Blog
sites.
hosting.
Yeah, or any web hosting site.
Okay, so blog hosting or web hosting, and have a Google of that, and presumably it's as easy as setting up like a username and a password type thing.
Yeah,
Is there more to it? Like,
well, there can be more to it. You can go as deep into that rabbit hole as you want.
But generally, to get started,
and the websites are pretty good. Like they'll do like a step by step part. Like once you start, it'll be like, okay, you've got your name now. Put a picture to the name, and then tell us what your website's about, and then do all these different incremental steps. I know you love the incremental.
I do love my incremental steps.
But you do all these tiny little bits that builds your website for you, and it guides you the whole way. That's it. Well, the good thing about WordPress is that it guides you everywhere.
Savage.
Yeah. So if WordPress want to give me some money for that promotion, I'd be more than happy. But then you can get into things like, I just don't like the idea of having a website that's like uptheroad.wordpress.com.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So I went on and bought a domain, uptheroad.ie.
Yeah, that's the obsessive compulsive in you there.
Yeah, it probably is. And then you can link that to your WordPress site. And but I would say if somebody's thinking of doing a blog, commit yourself to doing 10 of them. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm only starting.
No, do what worked for you?
Well, what worked for me is I wrote 10 of them, and then send it to 10 people, and ask them for an opinion, and ask them 10 people to maybe send it to somebody independent as well.
Nice.
And see what they think.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone who's basically not biased, they're not going to say, I like him, so I'm not going to tell him it's bad.
I have to sit beside him at a wedding in 3 months'
Like
time.
I sent it to one of my mates, and he said basically your grammar is appalling, and it's not great. My grammar is about as good as my cycling.
but there's something cool in that as well.
He straight up and said it, and he sent it on to another guy, and that other guy came back and said, "Yeah, I like the blogs, but the grammar is terrible."
Right.
But like that as well, nobody's really going to come back and say, like, this is shit. Because everybody wants you. If that's what you want to do, generally people will be encouraging to do it. Like,
yeah, I'd be a big proponent of doing things badly.
Unless you're going to rob a bank or murder something. People generally want to see you do well and do good things well.
Yeah, no, of course. Absolutely.
And whatever makes you happy.
If you're surrounded by people who don't want that for you, surround yourself with different people. Do you know what I mean? Like, if unless you're surrounded by people who genuinely want the fucking best for you, you're fucked if you've got that around you. And
most people do.
Like, I
don't know anybody who would like to see me do badly.
Yeah, but you're a positive guy. You're the kind of way you've a lot going for you. There's a lot of people out there, I think, that don't have as much going for them, say, and who are they kind of, I don't know, they hang around with people who put them down all the time. There are people out there like that, and loads of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe you need to get yourself out of that environment then.
No, big time. Surround yourself with positive people, and listen to positive people, and read positive people, and be a little bit more fucking positive. But
just do what you want.
Do what you want. Follow your bliss. Do what makes you happy. Absolutely. Yeah. Listen, on that note, Mr. McCann, absolute pleasure. Best of luck with the blog, and I'll chat to you again.
Thanks, Fran.
Cheers.